right. What's up, everybody? Wait, you got a 45 second slow mode? Nah. That can't be right. It's 10-second slow mode. Right out of the gate, they're complaining about slow mode. I'll take it down to 8. Yeah, so everybody, this is Kash Patel. He is actually, you know what? I will let you introduce yourself. You'll do a better job than me. But and Nate is going to be on in about 90 seconds. Everybody, we're going to talk about the shooting in DC, National Guard, and then also a bunch of Epstein stuff. And Chris has extensive experience in the FBI, so he's going to be a great guest to talk about all this stuff.
You're very kind. Thank you. And appreciate the chance to be here with you and your audience today, and Nate and his audience. I had been on with Nate before, so I hope his folks are willing to let me come back and spend some time with them.
Yeah.
My name's Kash Patel. I spent 25 years with the FBI, what I consider to be the old FBI, not this new corporatized FBI that we've kind of had for the last maybe 5 to 7 years. And, I did a lot of work in the national security arena after 9/11. Of course, that was the FBI's primary function. I've done a lot of technical operations, all this kind of scary, sneaky, spooky stuff with the guys in Langley or up at Fort Meade, and did things around the world for counterterrorism, interdiction. Just had a great career with the FBI. When I ended my career, I was one of the 8 most senior officials at the FBI, and I oversaw all of the science and technology programs that we use to support and advance operations across law enforcement and with the intelligence community. So, glad to be here today, willing to answer any question I can and give clarity wherever, and we can have a great discussion on all the jackassery that's been going on lately.
Absolutely. And guys, when we've done streams before, I have been terrible at keeping up with super chats. I'll do a much better job today. I promise. This is like, we just get going and I'm just letting people talk and then they kind of pile up. But Brian Phillips, he says, I don't want to see any parts of Kash exposed. Leave that for the honeypots.
No problem.
Yeah. But I guess interesting. The other thing too, for everybody who's watching, the reason why I think this panel is going to be so great, basically excluding my data set, is Nate actually is the only streamer I know that worked with these units in Afghanistan that the shooter came from. And I'll just be really interested to hear what everybody says. I mean, a question I would pose is the fact that the guy had worked for a unit that was deployed or was working side by side with the CIA. Do you think that makes it more likely that this guy that it's some form of operation stateside, or that he's disgruntled that he did all this work for the United States and then now they're like ending his visa or something? I mean, that's all.
They're not. He had his asylum approved this year by Trump, so that's not true.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. Somebody said that I read somewhere that his visa expired and he had overstayed or something like that.
No. So let's be very clear. The unit that he worked with, Kandahar Strike Force, there's a bunch of different names for this. The KKA, the KPF. Essentially what you're looking at here is, and I talked about this to my community last night. This isn't just like some guy that got on a plane and escaped. If you're working with the CIA and ground branch, you are the most vetted of all Afghans. We're talking about the level of vetting that these guys have to go through to get up past. I mean, there's like 6 different levels of the Afghan military, right? You have the ANA, the Afghan National Army, and the Afghan National Police. That's like your guys that Green Berets recruit. You don't know who you're getting. Are they Taliban? Are they not Taliban? You don't know. Regular army. Then you have kind of like the next level up in the SOCs, the Kandaks, Special Operation Kandaks, which is our commandos. Think of it like highly trained infantry, more vetted. Then you get to the Afghan Special Forces, who are mainly the guys that we worked with that are very, very vetted. And now you're getting up to things like the KKA or the KSF. These guys are extremely vetted. So they've like moved up through the chain for years and years and years of working with Army Special Operations and the CIA. So to think that this is like just some random Taliban guy that snuck onto a plane, that's not who this specific person is. But it does make it way more interesting because this means he was insanely vetted. Like he was vetted by the CIA for very, very high side level missions and direct raids and all these different things on high profile targets and things like that. That's what they were using these guys for. So for this guy specifically to carry this out, it makes the story much more bizarre. It could very well be that he was disgruntled. He did all this work for over a decade with the United States. He comes to America, he gets called a fucking towel head, and he gets all this shit because this is what these guys went through, and he snaps through PTSD or whatever. It's possible, but the idea that this is just some ISIS fighter that snuck in, that's not the story we're looking at with this guy.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever work with any of those units?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So they work with Army Special Forces, Green Berets, and the CIA. So all of those units do.
What was your experience working with them? Were they tight, buttoned up?
So the Army Special Forces guys, KKA guys, KSF guys, super squared away. Most of these guys have been working with and doing operations with Green Berets for over a decade, night in and night out. So when I rotate home, they don't rotate home. These guys have been fighting for 10, 15 years straight with Army Special Forces. And I was talking to a couple of my Green Beret buddies, because we always hear about blue on green, you know what I mean, which is Afghan nationals killing American soldiers downrange, or Iraqis. Most of that comes from the ANA, the Afghan National Army, the Afghan National Police, where it's very low vetting. You don't really know what you're going to get. I asked my buddies, I'm like, have you ever heard of a blue on green from an Afghan Special Forces guy or above? Ever? And all the guys I talked to have said, we've never seen it happen, ever. So that's why this makes this even more bizarre for this type of guy. Keep in mind, this guy there's about 500 to 700 of these guys that worked with the KSF that basically all got exiled to either the UAE, America, or Europe, because they're basically the most wanted, the most wanted people on the Taliban hit list. So the Taliban want to kill these guys and their families more than anyone else because of the operations they've been running with the United States. So again, to my point is, that's the type of guy that we have carrying out this attack on two random National Guard soldiers in the street in Washington, D.C. It's very, very bizarre.
Yeah. That was why, when even in the framing of, anybody getting in front of a microphone and framing it oh, well, this guy was let in because of blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so what? We're not going to let him in. The guy fought for us over there for years. And if we leave him there, he's going to get murdered. And so is his family. You got to let him in. I mean, at least from my perspective, do you agree or no?
Well, yeah, of course. And I mean, it was primarily Green Berets. I mean, we had, even guys like Tim Kennedy, right? That were leading the charge and getting our guys out, guys that worked with us night in and night out for over a decade. The problem is there's a couple thousand of those guys. What we let in under the Biden administration, and I know because I've talked about this with my guys before, my unit was supposed to facilitate the withdrawal of Afghanistan. We got canceled by Biden at the last minute, and basically we saw what happened after that. And we let in 150,000 people. So that is a problem. Don't get me wrong. There's serious fucking problems with that. There's a lot of potential bad actors here, which is what you would have expected, right? Was some ISIS fighter snuck through the cracks, got on a jumbo jet. Some Taliban fighter got on a jumbo jet, escapes, gets in here in the chaos. But that's not who this guy is, which makes it more bizarre.
Chris, there's a super chat for you, and then I have a question for you too. Chris, so this Kenneth says, Chris, unbiased opinion. What areas of the FBI caused upper level leadership to be corrupt every 4 years from different administration? How can the U.S. citizens fix this before we lose control of the executive branch?
Well, I'll tell you is the director of the FBI is a political appointee. The director of the FBI came in. Jim Comey is where the really hard slide downward started. He was able to substitute his own personal ideology, his own beliefs, his own values for the mission parameters of the FBI. A lot of people got promoted into positions that had a like mindset, such as Mr. Comey, and that's where the real hardcore decline started. It doesn't have to do with the administration as much unless they replace the director, right? The director has a 10-year term. So they're supposed to insulate him a little bit.
10-year term, Chris?
10 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they made it 10 after Hoover because they didn't like Hoover being in charge for 70 years. right? He was way too powerful, knew everything in DC. He was just a real power broker there because he'd been around too long. So they figured out that 10 years will get them through 2.5 administrations, right? So even Robert Mueller stayed for, I think, 12 years. Obama asked him to stay, and he extended him for 2 years before Comey came on board. So, but it's the director who then, he picks his deputy director, who is a most senior FBI operations chief, and then they start promoting people of like mind. And that's where you start seeing, like, during the whole pandemic time, the Bureau went downhill fast because of the people who were in charge. They were amenable to the January 6th nonsense. They were amenable to all the CV-19 nonsense. They were amenable to those things, right? That they were amenable to it. So other people would have come back, like back in my day when I was a young guy, a lot of those Bureau chiefs would have said, "Kiss my ass. We're not doing that." They had a lot more, I hate to say spine, right? But they would say, "Nope, not doing it." But now you see these folks who want to kind of get along to go along to get along, right? And they want to please the politicians more so than the old Bureau chiefs, who they would say, "No, we're not doing that." So that's what happens.
That's how the generals are now in the military. It used to be, generals used to be nonpartisan. Now it's the complete opposite of that. It's just, we got to appease the guy in charge.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened with the Bureau too, unfortunately. And then under Chris Wray, when Comey was removed, he just let it slide further and further because he didn't step in and take charge. He let the remaining folks that Comey put in place, he let them kind of run the ship, right? And everybody's going to say, "Well, you worked there too." Yeah, I did, but not all of us were on board with this stuff, right? So you get a lot of that type of business. If I could offer one comment, though, Jesse, on what Nate said, one of the reasons we saw most times that these, I'll say, like, he's an asset, right? A human asset for us. Where they kind of blow a gasket was when they were promised things. This guy could have been promised things when he was coming over. "Hey, we're going to do all these things for you. We're going to help you and your family. We're going to give you a job, whatever," right? And then the government reneges.
Yep.
And next thing you know, this guy's working as a janitor somewhere. He's not a special forces soldier anymore. His kids aren't doing too well. His wife's not acclimating well to the West. He's living with some people out in Washington State, supposedly living at their house. They gave him a place to, this is not what this guy was promised. So
yeah. What if there's a promise related to people that are his that he's going to be able to bring over? And
Jesse, I was literally about to tell you a story about my interpreter, my personal interpreter.
Yeah,
we got out with his wife. We promised that we'd get the rest of his family out, and we reneged on that. And his wife's entire family was slaughtered by the Taliban.
Yeah. Talk about,
and now he's here and his wife, him and his wife are here, and their families are dead.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, what if something like that happened like this week?
It does happen. Yeah. It absolutely happens.
And I'll tell you what's a real shame is when I would look at, like Nate as an operator, the folks that we would send overseas as operators, they create these very beneficial relationships.
Yep.
And then what happens is when the operators come back and say, "Hey, we got to get these people out of here. We've got to do all these things." What happens then is a bunch of like bow tie wearing shitbags in DC get involved. And then, we can't do that. We can't do this. We can't do that. And my response is always, it's a can't or won't, because you can do whatever you want. The U.S. government gives itself an out on everything. So
the thought of that, like that story that you just told, Nate, happening with people that I cared about, that I had worked with, is giving me like an anxiety attack just even thinking about it. Like, that's rough, man.
Well, I tried to explain this to people because I'm not saying that the DC shooter isn't what we're talking about here. Somebody that snapped and took this out. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed CIA MK Ultra false flag. I'm not saying that. I think there's possibility in that. But to your guys' point, like, these are guys that, like, I went to war with. Like, I went to combat with night after night. I'm talking about, and we had very specific help from our Afghan special forces guys. These guys made sure there was 3 of them that walked over anywhere on the ground that I walked first, so that they would eat the IED before I did. for my whole team, for everybody, for Army Special Forces guys. That's how it was. These guys were literally risking their lives and limbs to make sure we stayed protected. That's how much they cared about having us there. That's how much they, supported having us there, that they were willing to do that. And so then after these guys, and some of these guys worked with Army Special Forces from 2001 to 2020. Some of these guys have done it 20 straight years fighting alongside the United States military. Really, it was the Green Beret War in Afghanistan. And then we make all these promises to our interpreters as well. Like, hey, you're going to risk your lives for us, but if it falls apart, we're going to get you and your family out. And then Biden and I don't want to get into this. I've done an entire episode on how botched the withdrawal was. I don't think people really understand how botched it was, because we actually did have a very good plan in place. Right. And we just threw it to the wind and we said, fuck it. And what we did was we canceled an entire special operations task force, which was I was a part of, which would have been 22 ODAs, 22 special forces teams that would have been in Bagram to facilitate the withdrawal. If you know anything about Afghanistan, the Taliban stopped fighting the guys with beards, which was us. When the guys with beards are there, they're like, we're out. No thanks. We're tired of being slaughtered. And so Bagram wouldn't have fell. Afghanistan wouldn't have fell while we facilitated the withdrawal. That all got canceled out of nowhere for no reason. And then, to your guys' point, all those promises we made to all of these guys we worked with just evaporated into thin air. And so we just said, hey, thank you for your service. Good luck. Go fuck yourself. That's what we did to most of these people.
I just wrote recently online. It was a stain on the honor of this country, the way that withdrawal was executed. It was horrible. And who is ever going to want to work with us again?
That's what I said last night on my show, Chris.
Debacle.
I said that exact thing on my show last night, Chris. It was so damaging, especially to Army Special Forces. Mm-hmm. This is what we do. We come in, we train, advise, and equip a foreign nation's resistance force or whatever, and then we're supposed to see it through. And what has the United States done over and over again? My dad was a Green Beret in Vietnam. You know what we did? We made the promises, we came in, and we bounced, and the Viet Cong slaughtered those people. Then we did it in Iraq, then we did it in Afghanistan. And so now think about Venezuela. Okay, let's say we need to invade Venezuela and we want to move in there with Green Berets and promise the Venezuelan people, if you rise up, fight alongside us, we promise we'll stick it through. What do you think the Venezuelan people are going to say? You think they're going to trust America or American Green Berets? They're going to go, no. We fucking saw what you did to Afghanistan. We're not fighting with you. And it's, to Chris's point, that's the downwind effects of that.
Honestly, for just the way that I interpret this is obviously it's super important how we're interpreted for future, but just on a human level, that story makes me ashamed as a citizen of this country. And it takes a lot. I don't think I've ever even said those fucking words before, but that makes me ashamed to be American. That story right there. That's so fucked, man. People bleed and die for us for years, promise them that we'll protect their family. We leave them there for the fucking Taliban. It's one thing to promise a witness, something, whatever, but in war, they put it all on the line for us for years and they trust their family's safety with our country. And then we fuck them. That's wrong. Not just wrong. That's, I don't even know, man.
Well, it happens all the time. We promise to protect them. We promise to protect their families. And then we, as a government, renege, right? And then these people are left to fend for themselves in many times in a very dangerous situation. And I used to always tell my people, never make a promise that you cannot keep yourself. Do not depend on the organization to keep your promises. You will be disappointed, right? And I've watched it happen to people in the past, and it's disturbing when you see you've just created what you had was a vetted asset who now you've turned into an enemy. Right. And it's just, and the blowback on this, there are going to be some people that are scrambling right now on this one. I guarantee you that they're digging up all the paperwork. All the fingers are getting pointed everywhere. And it's going to be who signed off on what. And a lot of memories are going to get real foggy and a lot of paperwork's going to get lost. And this is going to be a debacle for sure.
Chris, when you were in the agency, what did you focus on? Did you do a lot of anti-terror stuff?
Yeah, after 9/11, everything was counterterrorism all the time, everywhere. Yeah, so I did mostly counterterrorism work for many years after 9/11, international terrorism, of course, your Islamic extremism and things of that sort. So that's where all the resources were, and that's where the focus was. Because as I said on Nate's show a while back, we had our asses kicked, right? And as a result, people lost loved ones, family members, friends, because we weren't good enough. So we really had to step it up. And I told people we were okay at many things. We had to get very good at a few things, and that's what happened after 9/11.
So real quick, I gotta get caught up on super chats because I'm terrible at this.
Sure.
Kevin's View says, love the content. Former 11B here. What language did you speak in SF?
Chinese Mandarin, which I used none of ever. So yeah.
Wait, you speak Mandarin?
Yeah, Chinese Mandarin.
That's fucking badass.
Not very well anymore. Not, I mean, I went to language school 13 years ago, so not very well, but yeah.
Okay, we got this one from Liam James. Something that's a little bit off topic, but I remember you had Matt on and he hated when people would say African American or Mexican American because you are Americans. To remind, the first part is your heritage and the second is your home. Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it either way, but I don't like the idea of like your allegiance lies in where you came from. That I'm not a big fan of. If you're like, for me, that's why I don't like dual citizenship. Like, not just for government, but for any Americans. I feel like if you want to move here and you want to be a citizen, you should be all in, because I'm all in. Like, there's nowhere for me to go.
Yeah.
My
wife's a UK
I'm sure you guys
citizen.
are the same way. I'm sure we're all going down with the ship with America. You know what I mean? So
yeah, got that. My wife has dual citizenship with the UK, but it's like just some like ancillary, like it's like not a thing. It's just something that her mom, because her mom's from the UK, so she got it, and it's like I don't even remember unless someone
that
brings
makes sense.
Well, I'll tell you what, gentlemen. Hey, the whole American thing, we got to be Americans first. And I think that's how we've gotten to where our politicians and the rest of the folks who are the dividers have been able to wedge between communities, because we put that other identity first.
Yes.
And then America's secondary. If you want to be an American, we're all Americans. Let's be Americans. And if you're of whatever lineage or ethnicity, outstanding, be proud of it, but we're all Americans. And I think our leaders let us down on that whole, you're a whatever American, and now they've just driven wedges everywhere in the community.
Yep. I think that's definitely intentional from the, not necessarily the government people, but the people who are the string pullers who are running
our establishment.
Yeah. The people that are running like the critical race theory and all that stuff. It's like, because when as I remember it, it was, if you want citizenship, you need, like, part of the plan was to assimilate. Right. And then they really have
you
made
have to take you have to pledge an oath to the country. Yeah. And you have to renounce all allegiance to every other country when you become a citizen here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, take written tests and all kinds of stuff. Right.
Yeah.
There was a written test and everything. Yeah. It was a big investment of time and effort to become an American citizen.
Yeah. It still is.
And what they used to say is like the immigrants who got granted citizenship like knew more about the American government and history than your average American did, because to Chris's point, you actually had to learn. You had to learn about the Constitution and the founding fathers and the way our government's set up. So it may still be like that. I don't know. It is.
Exactly. So Daniel, black belt at my jiu-jitsu academy, he's an attorney in Brazil. He still practices law in Brazil just to like pay the bills, but he saw what's going on over there, and he moved here. He loves America more than 99% of people who are born here in America. And he's he takes the classes. That's how I know all that stuff. He's almost there. And he was telling me that he was talking about how in a lot of the classes that he catches a bunch of like Marxist propaganda that's actually worked into the classes they're supposed to take. Right. And that he's really sharp though. I mean, like he's practicing attorney. He's like he just, all that stuff that's going on in Brazil is wild. They've got that judge that like took over the country, and man, you look at that guy's pictures. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? That bald guy. He is a scary looking dude, man.
Yeah, and a lot of when you talk about South American immigrants from Venezuela, Brazil, and from like heavily socialist countries are that way when they get here to America. They're like the ones that are like the most anti-socialist, anti-communist, pro-America people in the country because they fled that oppressive system.
They know. They know.
Well, I mean, hey guys, when I grew up, we had still the Soviet Union and all that kind of good stuff. And I miss them. I miss the Soviets, man. Because there were gentlemen's rules. You knew the game. Now we have, I think it was Jordan Peterson said, would you rather have one giant dragon or would you rather have 1,000 poisonous snakes?
In your country, too.
Yeah. And that's kind of where we moved to, where we had the Soviet bear. We kind of knew where we stood with them. And now we have this problem where, tell me how did we get to this point where we have people in the United States who are fighting for socialism, which is an on-ramp to communism? How did we get here?
Propaganda through the universities.
Universities.
Yeah. They took over the schools and they took over the media.
Yeah.
And Nate, you and I talked about this back in your UW. I mean, that's what you do, right? You take over the schools, you take over the media, you take over certain things, and it gives you choke point control. And there you go.
You know, I watched this. I watched this clip the other day on YouTube from. I apologize to the guy if he sees this, but it's great channel where he was going over some of the leaked cables. That it was emails to the Epstein file, and they showed how George Soros had like kind of manufactured this entire movement in Mongolia in order to get favorable deals or a favorable deal on this copper mine. And when he lays it all out, you see exactly how he did it. And then you realize how he's operating here. And it's like, this is not even complicated to even understand how he's doing this. Like, it's like when it's just laid out that way and it's so bare exactly what he's doing. It's like, people think that that's some kind of conspiracy theory. It's like that they're doing this. No. It's like, no, they're doing it.
It's not.
Yeah.
There's an equation. There's an equation that they use. There is and I told people this, I saw somebody the other day when they're talking about this rise of certain globalism and all this other isms that are in the United States. I said, look, there's a very simple way to look at it. First, they ask for access to our communities. Then they ask for accommodation. You have to accommodate my cultural needs or whatever, my religious needs. And then once you give them accommodation, they start making demands. And then you start acquiescing to some of these demands, and then they seek to dominate. Mm-hmm. And you can see it happening in the United States, in Minneapolis. You can see it in New York. You can see it in other places where we've allowed these groups of people to aggregate. Then they start voting each other into office. And then you have a situation where somebody can run for office in the United States and not speak one word of English in their whole political pitch.
Yeah, I talk about that all the time. It's the refusal to assimilate to American culture.
Yeah,
that I think is a big problem. So, like I've said, I don't care if you're black, white, Christian, Muslim, Jewish. If you assimilate to American culture, but to Chris's point, that's not what's going on in Minneapolis. You have Somalia basically just moving into Minneapolis and setting up little Somalia. That's not assimilating to American culture at all, and that's a big problem. For anywhere you're seeing that in America.
I agree. So I actually, speaking of people getting voted in, not to derail, as a matter of fact, let me do a couple super chats before I derail this. So Chris Heffernan said, hey brother, awesome to witness real people becoming popular again. Real shit is popular. Imagine that. Podcast was legit last night. Learned a lot. And Earl's daughter says, now that we know how heartless and cruel our military industrial or whatever, all industrial complexes, do we just go back to watching fantasy football or what? I'm so tired of nothing changing. If I was going to just speak on that real quick, I think that that stuff is so deeply ingrained in the process that we run our society that it's like, I wouldn't even know where to start if I was the Caesar of America, because you're talking food production, you're talking about drug production, you're talking about like critical things that everybody relies on. And the people who run those are this tiny little group. And it's not hard that's the problem with our democratic system. It's not challenging to manipulate the system if you have the money, because you put the people in office and you already you're basically buying them to vote the direction that you want to, and they put everybody in office. You know what I mean?
I don't know. My big thing is, and we've tried this before, some politicians have tried it, and of course it never goes through. You have to take the lobbying money out of out of politics. You can't allow, and look at, and I tell people this, if you watched when Biden got elected, you know who was at his inauguration? Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, all the technocrats. And then who did you see? Who'd you see at Trump's inauguration right behind him? Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, all the technocrats. It's like they don't care which side is in power because they're just going to lobby the side that's in power either way. And so I think that's our biggest problem is like we don't need billionaires in politics. That's a huge problem to your guys' point, because then everybody's just bought and paid for and nobody's working on behalf of the American people. That's got to change for any of this to change.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I see has happened over the years. The people in charge, whether it's the technocrats, the government folks, whoever, they make problems so big and hard to comprehend and so deep that it's hard to do anything as a regular person. You can't change anything. There's no way for you to get in. And look, I lived in the DC jungle for years, and you can't do shit on a lot of these things, and all of those organizations are intertwined, and there is like mutually assured destruction if they try to turn on each other. I'm telling you, it's I don't know if you have to raise it to the ground and just burn it to the ground, but then everybody says just burn it to the ground. Well, then what?
Yeah, that's
People,
those are people who don't understand like real human nature of what happens if you take away what people take for granted. It's like you don't want that, dude.
Well, to Chris's point, look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. She started to stand up to the system, and what happened? She got bulldozed, and she resigned.
I am.
And we saw what's happening to Thomas Massey. What's happened to Thomas Massey? He's standing up to the system, and they're like, "Guess what? $20 million from Marion Adelson to primary your ass."
Yeah,
that's what you get for trying to stand up to the system.
And what are they standing up for? They're standing up to hold the elite pedophiles accountable. It's like they stood up
can't do that
for children and women who had been victimized, and that lands them as like enemies of the state. Like, what could possibly be a more like pure-hearted effort than trying to expose people who have like victimized and raped women and children? It's like,
I want to get Chris's take on this, because we obviously see.
Let me do a couple of these super quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I definitely want to do that too. That's why I was like, let's just go through these real quick, and then we'll do. Okay, so Raven wants to know which is more evil, with the Nazis with gas chamber, with the Jews are nuke tech. Both killed millions.
I'll tell you this: gas chambers aren't actually effective at killing people, so that part of the story doesn't make any sense anyway. If you actually believe that, gas is super ineffective, it's super expensive. That's not how they were killing people in the Holocaust to begin with. So I'll just say that. People don't like to hear that, but that's the truth.
I think that was sensationalized because it did happen in very small, concentrated areas.
Most of those were delousing. They were for delousing. Yeah. So lice was a huge problem.
Right.
And so anyone coming into Europe, especially, was going through big delousing facilities. That's the truth on that. I'm not saying the Holocaust didn't exist. I'm not saying that, but the gas chambers, to Chris's point, was very sensationalized through history.
Yeah. And nuclear tech is just the inevitable end of tribal human nature, where you don't trust people who are in out groups. And it's like, as science advances, like, well, what if these guys do this, to the point where you develop weapons that would literally evaporate the entire earth, and you have multiple countries that have hundreds or thousands of them. Speaking of which, did you guys watch the movie House of Dynamite? Did you guys watch that?
Haven't caught it.
Is that the one where the nuke goes off, or it's going to go off in Chicago, and the president has to decide if he's going to nuke somebody back or not?
Correct. Yeah, that.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's a good movie. It's a weird ending.
Very good. The ending, everybody hated it, and I will argue with people all day. I'm like, no, that's the best ending, because you see, it doesn't matter. Makes no fucking difference. It
doesn't show what the president's decision is, if he's going to nuke somebody back or not. He just goes into a bunker, and that's all you get.
Yeah, and it's because you realize, you're like, our society is fucking over either way. Like, it's done. Like, just the one ICBM, and it's all over. You know.
That's why I mentioned earlier was the that whole concept of mutually assured destruction.
Yeah,
that's what we had with the Russians.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
We had that bipolar. Hey, you launch, we launch, everybody dies.
Yeah.
You know,
And it
everybody has to
actually,
think, you know.
and it actually, I mean, there was a lot of like, you know, proxy wars going on in the Cold War,
yeah.
but it actually stopped World War III
Right.
from happening, interestingly enough.
It's one of those
Right.
things that, like, thus far, nukes have been a nice insurance policy where superpowers don't go to war anymore. And it's like, look at all the peace we have, unless at some
Now we
point
just,
they go
yeah,
off
now we
and
just,
then everybody dies.
now we just do proxies around it.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick, it says, Nikki Navy says, I know American citizens, you didn't know that New York was a state and thought Georgia was in the Midwest. I've seen those videos too, dude. Like where they ask, they usually are just like dumbbell, like, you know, 25-year-old white kids, you know, and they're like, hey, do you know where this is? They're all, no idea.
Or like,
like
name 3 countries, and they're like, Africa, Australia, and then they'll be like North America, and you're like, ooh, that's rough.
Well,
and that's
you
crazy
know what? They
too,
skipped the geography. They skipped the geography for Marxism. They're teaching them Marxism instead of geography now.
Yeah.
That's not, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Martin Exotic says, snowing here in Indiana, but making chilly while watching this. Chris, 19 million or 17 million. Oh, wait, 19M or 17.
Yeah, 19M. Absolutely. He's talking about the Glock pistol that was made for the Bureau.
Oh.
The Bureau went for it. They had it made for the FBI, called it the 19M. Now it's the Glock. It's the current Glock Gen 5.
Yeah, that's what we had in Glock 19 Gen 5 was our duty pistols too.
Yeah,
17 is an enormous pistol.
I like the 17. I like the 17 myself more because I have really big hands.
I was going to say, you're a big boy.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know what? They're both great guns. But I carried the M. I liked it.
Yep.
So
Glock. If you want, I tell everybody out there, if you want just a standard concealed carry to defend yourself weapon, get a Glock 19 or a Glock 17. Don't do any modifications to it. Put a red dot on it. Leave it at that, because that gun, I don't know if I've ever had my Glock 19 jam or malfunction in like 5 years. So
Nate, I have never, since the late 90s of shooting Glock pistols, have had a misfire or a stoppage of some sort. Never, not once.
Yep.
They're
so reliable.
I carry Glock 43X, and I bought this huge box, like 1,000 rounds of this ammunition at the range that I go to. And I was getting failures to feed on my Canic, on my, basically I had like 4 other pistols, and I was getting failures on all of them. And the Glock ran it like, and I mean, like every other pistol was jamming on these shit ass rounds, and the 43X just ran them all day long.
No, can't complain.
Okay, so Run says, I'm torn apart, 33 years old, 5-year veteran, been a patriot since birth, having a father born in 1940 in Latvia, growing up in immigration camps from 4 to 13. I have no idea what's what anymore. Yeah, dude. I mean, things have changed a lot. Raymond says, what I'm getting to, if we blame Hitler, then why can't we blame Epstein and Oppenheimer?
He's talking about Einstein and Oppenheimer for the nuclear weapons program.
It's a fair point.
Yeah,
I mean, United States.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with Hitler. He was trying to get a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, that's why we built it.
Right?
Yeah.
We beat him to it. But the fact that we were able to use those 2 nuclear weapons instead of assaulting the island of Japan saved lives on the long-term end of. Nate, think about it. You're rolling up on the island of Japan. People there, they still had the warrior culture. They would have all.
Oh yeah, I lived in Okinawa.
It would have been a bloodbath for years.
If you think, and Okinawa was a bloodbath for everybody. That's one of the islands we actually took by force, and I mean that was nasty. We lost tens of thousands of guys just on that island itself. So that's one of those. It's one of those interesting moral quandaries, a hindsight quandary, right? Where you say, was dropping the atomic bomb worth what it was for, killing all those civilians? Well, I don't know. We can't see what the future was without it.
Right.
Could it have been that 1 million more people would have died on both sides? Probably.
I think even more. Because my dad said this to me one time, and like this is I went through a phase of anybody who watches my stuff consistently knows, like I've shared this. Like, I went through a few years of such kind of demented obsession with nuclear weapons because I just couldn't wrap my brain around, like, how does it never happen? And just the scale. Anyway, but my dad said something to me one time that I thought was one of the most insightful things I'd ever heard anyone say about this topic. Was he was like, it's the fact that we dropped the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki is the best thing that could have happened, because that forced the human race to see what these things actually did in practice, so that when you're building these, thermonuclear 5, 10, 15 megaton bombs, it wasn't hypothetical. Like, you actually saw what one of these tiny little 13 kiloton bombs did. And it probably kept us from ever having an exchange. Because if we would have just done the buildup, no one would have ever seen those things actually used on those cities. Then you may have had a much, much, much bigger exchange. And I'm like, dude, that actually lines up,
Well, think about this. The bombs at Nagasaki and Hiroshima,
tiny.
They would be considered tactical nukes today.
Yeah, they're tiny.
The thermonuclear bombs that we have now are just orders of magnitude more powerful. And but you're right. I think the fact that we let that nuclear genie out of the bottle, everybody stood back, because what if we wouldn't have had it and the Russians got it, or the Germans at the time? I mean, so
I wonder, like, if only one country would have gotten the atomic bomb, and they just went with a policy of, if we even find out that you're trying to develop one, they just drop one on them and just kind of like bomb the world into submission. I can't even imagine what the world would look like if they really did that. Cause like, you can't stand up to them if you don't have them.
I think you'd have one flag flying in a lot of places around the world.
Yeah. That's probably a one world government, probably 50 years later.
Okay. So Progressives and Liberals says, I am Laotian American. During Vietnam, we Hmong people were used to fight for the CIA and promised to be taken back to America.
I talked about earlier.
Yep. When the Americans left, we had to leave Laos on foot to a Thailand refugee camp. Made it by our teeth.
So yeah, my dad was in 46th Company and literally trained the Hmongs in the CIA. So probably guys like your dad. And that's exactly what we did. We did the exact same thing. We did get a lot out, the Hmongs and the Mutton Yards. There's pretty huge communities in Michigan, I believe, and a few other places. North Carolina has a really big community. So we did get a lot out. But again, we left 1 million people to get slaughtered as well by the Viet Cong, just like we did in Afghanistan. So we unfortunately have a history of doing it.
Well, thank you for your service, though. I mean, it's Hale Blazer says, agree on most things, but I do think healthcare should be a human right. I had a stroke at 27 and the costs were way over $100K.
Well, what does human right mean, right? Is the Second Amendment a human right? I personally, here's my feeling on this. I personally think America, as the wealthiest country in the world, could provide universal healthcare. As long as we can send billions of dollars to Israel while they have universal health care, I don't see any excuse why we wouldn't. However, when you start talking about human rights, I think you're kind of, I don't know, you're kind of like, what does a human right mean, right? Government provided programs are human rights now. I don't know about that one. But I do like Brazil's system. Sorry, Chris, real quick. Like Brazil has a system to where they have a socialized healthcare system for everyone. It's not great. I can tell you, I use the VA, or I don't even use the VA because it's so terrible. Government provided healthcare is not great, but as a baseline, I don't think it's a bad idea. And then if you want to have your own, that's the way Brazil does it. You can also then purchase a actual, non-subsidized medical insurance like we do here, and you get a lot faster care. You get better care. That might be something that we could look at, but I do think that, in America, it's a little bit of a socialist thing to say, but there is some things I think that we could probably use our tax-paying dollars on better, which universal health care might be one of those things as a baseline. But I don't think it should be, you can't expect that you're going to get the same health care as somebody that's paying, $3,000 a month for it.
Well, what are you guys' thoughts? The VA. You brought up the VA, Nate. I had the same discussion with my granddaughter, right? Talking about healthcare. And I said, look at the VA. The VA is what the government provides as a healthcare system for our veterans. It's a terrible system. I think it's run with good intent, poor outcome. right?
Yeah, I buy
And
we pay for our own healthcare. Even though I have the VA, I pay for my own healthcare because I just don't want to deal with it.
It's just not sufficient, right?
I had to
But
wait
think
6
about
months to get a pain management procedure done on my back.
Right.
Pain management,
Yeah.
6 months. Like it's a lot of it. So it's such a complicated system. Healthcare, and here's the other problem: we have 350 million people in this country.
Right.
That is a little bit different than a place like Norway.
Yeah,
It's got 9 million people. That socialized medicine in the UK and Sweden and Norway looks a lot different when you're trying to provide it for 9 million people compared to a third of a billion people. So it's very complicated. I don't have an answer on that.
I don't think there is an answer that would be good for everybody because it's a philosophical question. But I do think this: the money that we send overseas for other countries, there should not be one hungry, sick, or homeless American before we send another friggin' dollar.
Agreed.
Outside the country.
100%.
That was kind of my point with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let me
sending hundreds of billions to other countries. I could use that money here.
Exactly.
On stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I agree with that for sure.
I'm going to pause the super chats so that we can I want to talk about Epstein for a little while here, and then we'll get to more. So I don't even know where to even start this. Like, Chris, let me one thing that I definitely wanted to ask you is like, so the FBI, they go on to Little St. James, pictures of them pulling boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff off there. Obviously, the feds they raided his property in Florida, lots of boxes of it, and in New York potentially also. What if there was going to be a cover up of whatever they found? Like, what would the process of that be? Like, who would need to call the director, and the director, what, they just take that evidence and go put it in their house or something? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to play it on the bad side of things, right? You're going to have to get a whole bunch of FBI agents who are there collecting evidence, doing evidentiary inventory. You'd have to leave it out there. You'd have to say, hey, these 7 boxes, leave them over here. These 10 boxes, we can put them into evidence. Because once the evidentiary chain starts, you can't break that chain without somebody noticing. Because you have 10 boxes and everything in the box is labeled and serialized and everything, right? You have 10 boxes and I was this box 1 of 5 and blah, 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 right? So everything is very good. You'd have to do it on the front end. And that's where I think if you had things set aside, if you had things that were sensitive in nature, things that would not make it to the public's attention or to a court, that's where it has to happen. Otherwise, you're going to have to get so many people to collude to do this that you can't keep that many people's mouths shut.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask is if they make you guys, if they would make these guys undergo, what's it? I'm brain fart when non-disclosure agreements or anything like that for your guys. I mean, in the military, we get read onto things, right? Where it's like, there's things I still can never talk about publicly for the rest of my life that I did. Is there stuff like that the agents might be under?
No, we had the same thing. We had non-disclosure agreement for any bureau activity, any. Okay. And if you're read into any special access programs, now you got another one that you can't talk about.
That's what I meant.
You get all the song and dance, right? So, but to get that many people to collude would be really difficult and unlikely. Just same thing with that whole burn bag story that they brought out.
That they found that stuff in a burn bag.
Oh, what a bunch of bullshit! Listen, those burn bags have probably been around since 2017, or at least those documents have. So you mean to tell me that they're sitting in a locked room somewhere in the J. Edgar Hoover building, which everybody's always fighting for office space? You have an empty room somewhere where these bags were just locked in and nobody looked in there for 9 years, 8 years.
And what was in there? Damning evidence.
It is illogical. Those burn bags were processed every 3 to 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, that's that's like the service, right? Like the burn bags, it's like a service. You put them in the burn bags and then they come and pick it up and destroy whatever's in it, right?
It's for classified trash, right? It's classified information or sensitive information. They take them, they call them burn bags. They don't burn them anymore because the climate Nazis got all over everybody. So they take and they dissolve them with chemicals.
Oh, okay.
Right? And they
bleach
dissolve the paper back into like a pulp.
Yeah.
So where it's not, you can't ever recreate it, right? Because we actually had stuff, we could recreate shredded documents. People didn't know that, but we did.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Wow. Chris, I wanted to ask you about this because we're all very aware that this is two administrations, one left, one right, that both did not want these files to come out. Everybody kind of wraps their head around why. Here's been my theory, and a lot of guys' theory kind of in our space, is that what I think is it doesn't have to do with like maybe Trump's in them, Clinton's in them. I think that's low-hanging fruit. I think the people in them are low-hanging fruit. And I think what it is when you're talking about we can't let anyone know about our sources and methods on all the high side stuff. And so what it just seems to me, and the evidence points to, is that what they really don't want Americans to know is that our own government intelligence agencies, the CIA, NSA, Mossad, MI6, were essentially either complicit at a minimum in knowing about Epstein's activities or directly involved in human trafficking of children to potentially blackmail foreign governments, foreign officials, our own politicians. To me, that seems like the real thing that they do not want to let us know, is that our own government was complicit in these activities, more so than they care about individuals getting popped or exposed. What's your thought on that? That's what seems like to me makes sense, what they're really trying to hide.
Agreed. I agree with you on that. I think that there's more of a intelligence function that they're trying to protect. I actually told some congressman one time, I said, do you think that if we found information that allowed us to leverage other countries into things, that we would expose it to the American people? That will never see the light of day. That's
exactly what I said.
Yeah, it's over in Langley somewhere, and they gave somebody a call, and they said, hey, we're your new best friends, right? That type of thing. And it's never going to be seen. We're never going to get anything. And people should and it's almost childish to think that we should see all of those things. Here's another one. What if you get a bunch of really big time, like drug cartel bosses that are over there, doing what they do with the kids, right? Be frowned upon probably, but we now have them, and now we're telling these guys, hey, now you work for us.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, Chris, is like all of our blackmail around the world, and this is kind of gross to say, but all of our blackmail around the world evaporates overnight. If we've got blackmail on the Saudi crown prince and it goes public, that's not blackmail anymore.
No, we lose our leverage, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want that, because now you have generational influence.
Yep.
Hey, if you don't do it, if you don't do what we want, we're gonna tell your kids. We're gonna implicate somebody else in your family. I mean, it's a dirty game, right? So I think that it's more about the strategic value of something like that.
Yeah.
And here's another thing: you don't have to agree with it, Nate. You don't even have to concur. You can just pose no objection. Those words come up a lot in meetings. We pose no objection. That doesn't mean that we said we like it. That doesn't mean that we said we're in, but they pose no objection.
That's what I mean, being essentially complicit in it, not. Yeah. We weren't participating in it, but we knew about it, and we just went, okay.
Yeah, exactly, right. And then in the government world is like, hey, we never agreed. You pose no objection, though.
Yeah, when the whole thing first started, that's exactly what I was saying. Is I was like, look, put yourself in the position of someone who had compromising information on fill in the blank person who can wield power over a large area. It's like that leverage, like their power is your power. As long as you hold this information, the second that this gets exposed, it has no value anymore. It's gone. And the person who you could have exerted their power at your own whim is now not even in power anymore. And it's a complete question mark who's going to be in there. And so, yeah, I mean, that was
for me as an American citizen, though. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Burn them all down. Let all the leverage go. Show the world how it works. But I'm also not naive to think that our own government is ever going to allow that to be seen. Like the government, Chris, I say the government's not about to tell on itself, willingly. You know what I mean? That's it's just not going to happen.
Especially when it comes at the expense of little girls. Like that's my issues. Like that's why I'm like, I understand, and also no. You know what I mean? It's like because if the implication is that we are sacrificing little American girls into this in order to create leverage on people, I'm like, no.
Every American says no way, but we're not going to know. I think what we're going to get, and I don't know what you guys think about this, I think we're just, when the files come out, we're going to get low-hanging fruit. We're going to get some billionaires, some actors, a magician, a couple politicians, famous people, a Kevin Spacey, so that the American people can go and, they'll perp walk them probably, and we'll show accountability. And then the American people can go, that the normies can go, yeah, we got them. We got accountability. And then they'll bury it and we'll move on and things will continue as planned. That's what I see coming once the files come out.
That's what you got.
I love
with
it that
Prince
you're an
Andrew.
optimist.
Yeah. Oh, I'm an optimist. Oh, God.
I love it that you're an optimist.
You think we're going to get less than that?
I think we're not going to get jack shit.
Wow.
I think you're going to get a bunch of nonsensical documentation, redacted documentation, which is going to make everybody unhappy. And here's the problem I see with it. Now, everybody says there's an Epstein list and there's not a list, and there is a list, but there's not a list. And then here's what I tell folks. Look, if I was still in my previous life, I know for a fact that there will be a ledger. There will be a ledger of victims 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up through whoever.
100%.
And then there will be interviewed victim, showed these pictures, recognized picture 7, 9, 12, and 15. And then you're going to go through this cycle of all the people. And you're going to say, we know who pictures 7, 9, and 15 are. The young ladies may not recognize them because they were, brought in as Mr. Smith or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But we know who they are. So if you're talking about a ledger or a list, I guarantee you there has to be an investigative inventory of identified subjects, identified victims, who they talked with, all those things. That's going to be your list more than likely, because all that other stuff we just talked about, again, is sitting over probably in Langley, Virginia.
Yeah, 100%. We're getting none of the high side stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
Don't think we're going to get any high side stuff. We know that.
Exactly. But that's what you should be looking for. No one's asking for that.
Yeah.
No one's asking for that, right? And they say, well, it's an active investigation. Well, not really, right?
Right.
But nobody's asking for that documentation because they don't know what to ask for. And if I walk in one day and said, where's this information? Oh, we don't have it. Well, then all of you are fired because you didn't do your jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I've already seen there's reports coming out that the FBI has already redacted 300 gigabytes worth of material. So it's like, to your point, Chris, like, what do we, and Pam Bondi said before they went whoopsie, Pam Bondi said 10 months ago, that there's thousands of videos and photos showing these men
10,000 hours
graping these women, these young women and these children.
So,
and I bet you we don't see a single one of those.
No.
Yeah. You mean we can't identify these people? Bullshit.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So that's what I'm saying. So when this comes out, it's going to be a big nothing again. And I think it's going to be, and again, I love it that you're an optimist, Nate. Maybe they'll give up a couple of guys who are deceased.
Yeah,
there you go. We'll get the dead guys.
Right. You get a couple of dead guys, or even if they recently had a car accident. Right.
Yeah.
Get one of those guys.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're going to see a lot coming out of that the American people think that there's going to be this just enlightenment on the situation. It was a cesspool. They're trying to pave over the cesspool. Is what they're doing.
Yeah. 300 gigs of documents. Like that is an absolutely outlandish amount.
And documents come in kilobytes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So it's a lot.
They just go they probably have the actual list and they're just going like command search, and then they just go black, like they know who they are, and then they just black it all out, like black.
Yeah, because it's never going to come out to the American people, guys. I keep telling folks that stop. Dream about something else. We're more likely to get a break on taxes than we are to get the X.
Or find out aliens are real. That'll probably come.
They were prepping us. They were prepping us pretty hard for that for a little while.
I saw they started talking about it again on Fox News a week ago, and I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. And what's crazy is like I know a lot about that topic. A lot of the stuff about like the nuclear bases and the ICBM places where like they would come in and like these are super credible things that happened. But then the second the government started talking about it, I was like, get the fuck out of here.
I don't believe it anymore. I don't believe it anymore.
Yeah, now I don't fucking believe it, dude.
Think about this, guys. These people, these aliens have technology to fly across the entire universe at whatever warp speed, like in Star Trek, right? They get here and we catch them, and they crash on the earth.
Yeah, that's kind of silly.
It's kind of like us going and looking at chimps.
It is, yeah. That's exactly what it's like.
That's exactly
right? And you expect the chimps are going to take us on, and they're going to figure our stuff out. It's just
capture us and steal our technology.
Yeah.
When you put it that way, it gets a little bit silly.
That's the old.
That's my view of it.
Yeah. I just look at it like I think that anybody like in government or whatever acting like they know anything. It's like if they're here, no one knows anything. There's no one like holding this back. They can just invisibly monitor us if that's what they want to do or whatever. It's like the stories I've heard are like you're talking about technology that is like there's nothing we could do to interact with this other than just be there when it's there.
We would be chimps.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So people always ask me too about like X-Files, right? I used to get that all the time back when the X-Files were still a thing. Mm-hmm. Hey, is there really something like that? No, that's ridiculous. No, you don't have some weird dude and a nice looking lady flying all over the country looking at UFOs and shit like that.
Yeah. Why don't we hit some super chats, and then I want to ask Chris about Kash Patel and all of the shit Kash Patel has been up to in the last month or so.
Okay, so Joe Saunders.
We can talk about that a little bit, definitely.
So Joe Saunders says, honest question. So say you're from, I don't know, Somalia, you get a chance to be American and have a better life, and you refuse and perpetuate the very thing that you ran from. Just saying.
There's a lot of that. Look at Ilhan Omar. She's a perfect example of exactly that.
Hey, I did hear a story.
Yeah. Think about this, Jesse. They want to recreate the third world toilet that they came from. They want to bring it here and recreate it, albeit with American benefits.
Yeah.
Well, think about this, guys. It's not even just that. Think about the mass exodus from California to Texas. And then what do all these people do? They get to Texas and they vote like they're in California. It's the exact same thing.
Shit, not this motherfucker. We moved from California to Texas, and the first thing we did is put a bumper sticker on my wife because she still had California plates, and she put a bumper sticker on that said "Don't California my Texas," like on top. And so everyone like honked at us. They're like, "Woo!" Yeah, there's that's just common sense, dude. If you're fleeing,
it's so weird when you think about it though, because other than like the UK right now, we obviously and Europe in general, we see obviously problems going on there, but the rest of the world, like, you don't just get to like move to China and like set up little America in China and be like, we're doing whatever we want here in China, like, or Russia or, Latin America or like, that's not how it works anywhere other than the United States. And we get told like, hey, you have to let these people come in and have their own culture and not assimilate at all to your communities. And it's like, no, I don't think we do.
Well, we're seeing the downside of it.
Yeah. It seems, it has to be intentional. It's like, how do you want to break a strong country? It's like the country is just the sum of all of its parts. And so if you just, bombard it with people who are not from there, who don't value the culture, who don't care, and then you convince the people who are there that they're racist if they're like, no, I think like we have some cultural things that are important to protect. It's like, no.
So, well, here's what I'll tell you we do, and whether you want to tie in the complicit people involved in this, the right wing in America goes and bombs and destabilizes countries, and then the left wing opens the borders and brings all the refugees in. That happens. That's what we do. That's what we did to Europe. I mean, regardless of who you want to blame for that, that's how this whole thing works. Like, we destabilized 6 countries in the Middle East, bombed the shit out of them, created a refugee crisis, and then we opened our borders. So it's like, to your point, like, it's right wing or left wing, the same bird.
Yeah, there's no,
I mean?
Hey, I wish they were that devious and smart. I wish. I think it's just a collection of ego-driven screw-ups over the years where, like you said, somebody said that I saw it where they said, well, I'll skip it for this conversation, but I think it's like this hubris that we have, that we think we can go places and make other people think and do like we do.
Oh,
and then we create these failed states, and then we get an attack of conscience, right? And then we say, oh, well, we went over there and screwed everything up. Now we got to bring them here and let them live like Americans.
Yep.
And you know what I mean? And that cycle just keeps going where we have this hubris where, we took Gaddafi out of Libya, failed state.
Massive, huge fuck up there.
That was terrible.
It's not just the Middle East. I don't think people realize that the United States, the CIA, and Army Special Forces have overthrown almost 40 Latin American governments in the last 100 years.
Right? Over
in
the
last
years,
100 years, almost 40 Latin American governments have we destabilized and regime changed. And then what did we do? Flooded America with the refugees from it. So that's what we do here.
Yeah.
Whoever's in charge of it, to Chris's point, is it negligence? Is it nefarious? I don't know, but that's what's happening.
Yeah. I'd like to think we weren't that stupid. That's all. But
Tom says, do you believe the execution of the Afghan withdrawal affected Russia's confidence in you invading Ukraine, or was the invasion inevitable regardless?
No, I don't think they had anything to do with each other. Personally,
I think the only thing we saw was that the United States was weak.
Yep.
And the rest of the world saw that we were weak and pretty shitless. I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
I mean, we supported Russia or Ukraine with $300 billion worth of equipment regardless. We weren't going to physically get involved in that war. Well, we weren't going to, right? I know some things different about that, but on a large scale. So no, I don't think, but I'll say this, even somebody that's sort of pretty anti-war, I think the decision to leave Afghanistan and to give up Bagram and Kandahar Air Base was the dumbest strategic move the United States has ever done.
And what was that about? Why?
We have 150 military, probably more military bases all over the world, and we decide to close down the two that are the most strategic location for us. Why? Afghanistan, who do they border? Right next to Iran on the west. You border China on the east, right? So it's like, and then you have India, Pakistan, and like right there in the south. So it's like that was the most strategic location in the world. Why would you ever give up that power location? It almost seems intentional.
That's what I was going to say. Why do you think they did it?
Yeah, just idiotic.
Because Biden wanted to win. He wanted to be the guy that got us out of the wars in the Middle East. And that was it. That, to me, from what I saw from somebody that was, again, spent 9 months preparing and planning to facilitate the withdrawal, and then were turned off at the last minute for no reason and no explanation. That's what it seems like to me, is that he just wanted he thought it was going to be this great political win, and it all crashed and burned in front of our faces.
What did that feel like?
Figured out.
What did that feel like for your team? Like the guys.
Well, for me, you got to keep in mind, guys, for those of you who are in the military, we were so close to deploying. I was on pre-deployment leave, which means you take 30 days to spend with your families because you're about to deploy, had our beards grown out. We were so close. We had shipped our equipment, our Connexes, into Afghanistan. We were literally about to get on flights to deploy for 6 months to facilitate the withdrawal. We get a call from my team sergeant, who I've had on the show before, and he says, "Hey, guys, you need to come down to the bar, local bar in Okinawa. I need to talk to you." And again, we spent 9 months preparing for this, and 22 other Special Forces ODAs as well. And we come in, and he sits us down, and he goes, "Guys, we just got told the deployment's canceled. We need one of our guys, our 18 Charlie. Hey, we got to get you to go fly into Afghanistan, into Bagram, to get all of our equipment back and fly it back. We don't know why, and that's all we've been given." And then we saw a couple, and then so 10th Special Forces Group that was there, because I was in 1st Special Forces Group, who we were supposed to replace, do a handoff with, they exfil out, and then you just see Afghanistan topple over the next 2 months, and we never rotated in. No reasoning, no explanation, never been given. So all I can see, all I can think is what he thought was, hey, we're just going to pull out as fast as possible, and we're going to get the win. And it didn't work out that way, obviously.
Well, as usual, to me, I go back to ego and hubris. I think he wanted it to be part of his legacy.
Well, he announced he was going to do it on 9/11. Remember, it was going to be the 20th anniversary of 9/11. He was going to pull us out, and then it all fell apart. So it just seemed like theatrics. And to Chris's point, he was going to get the ego win. He was going to go down in history, right? And he did, but.
Probably had some kind of agreement with the Taliban that like they would make sure that we were able to pull out. And he's just like, nothing.
No, Trump had the agreement that we would have the ability to facilitate the withdrawal, and they wouldn't fuck with us for like 9 months. That was all canceled. And then as soon as it was canceled and the Taliban found out that there's no more Special Forces teams rolling in, that's when they took the country over. That's exactly how it happened, timeline-wise.
Well, hey, Nate. Tell me if I'm not wrong here, but the U.S. military actually retreated to Bagram. and set up kind of a barricaded situation.
Yeah, we gave up Kandahar Air Base. We gave up, and we had bases all over the country, guys. We owned the entire country. By 2019, the Taliban gave up. They wouldn't fight. They were in caves. Yeah. We literally handed it all to them,
right,
and said, "Here you go, Taliban, take the country over." So
yeah.
But anyway,
okay. I saw something for the FBI on there.
Yeah. So should a young man go work for the FBI and join the army and die for Israel? Half joking, seriously.
I'll take the FBI thing, but I'll tell you what, there's guys still hit me up, young guys, and say, "Hey, is it worth going in?" And I say, "Well, why are you going in?
Yeah.
Why do you want to join? Do you want to join to be part of the protective infrastructure of our nation? Do you want to be part of the law enforcement, protective infrastructure? What do you want to do?" Because you look at the nonsense that's going on now, right? And the nonsense that went on a couple of years ago, that will pass. These people will leave. And if you're there to do the job of, again, the FBI's mission, protect the American people, uphold the Constitution. If that's why you're going, then I say go and do it, because they need good people. But if you're going there just, because whatever reason people go there now, I don't know what it is, then I would say you got to, it's not like getting a job at like Department of the Interior or some shit, right? Yeah. So if you want to be just like a military, you want to join the military.
I say the exact same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to tell them why you're going. Because if you don't like what's going on right now, give it a couple of years. It'll change.
And to Chris's point, and I tell young guys, I mean, you join the military, a lot of us, will end up doing 20 years. You got to imagine how many different administrations and political people, like the left's in charge, the right's in charge, the moderate's in charge. Like the ocean's going to sway back and forth. And I'm sure it's the same way in the FBI, Chris, is like, you're going to have Obama in charge and a Trump in charge. And if you're there for 20 plus years, like you were, you're going to be on the waves, right? So if you're in there for the wrong reasons, you're not going to make it.
So I say if you're going to go for those reasons, like Nate just highlighted, then I say do it. If you're going because you just want a government job, then don't do it.
Yeah. We got Nate. You had asked how a KSF man who has been vetted at the highest level, fought alongside Americans for 10 years, drives all the way across country, kills a member of the National Guard. Wait, you would ask?
Is there more to that?
Oh, here we go. How about because a CIA handler threatened him and his family if he didn't, as this is a false flag or for a coup or the color.
So a lot of my buddies, fellow Green Berets, brought that up as a potential when you're talking about a source like that. There's possibility in that. Again, I don't know. The CIA high side stuff, man, that's a lot sketchier than what I dealt with. We were pretty straightforward, even at the Green Beret level of, not doing shit like that. But, I don't know. I wouldn't put it past, that type of situation where if the CIA decides, hey, we need this to happen and we're going to threaten them. But I don't know, man. Again, anytime the CIA is involved, my eyebrows raise. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what this is. There's no guarantee this was some false flag. I will say the timing and the context of the attack are very, very suspicious to me right now, with, again, all the Islamophobia drum up from Zohran Mamdani winning and Dearborn and all these things. And all of a sudden, after no terrorist attack since the Boston bombing, for the most part, all of a sudden this gets carried out by a CIA asset. Yeah. Suspicious, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a false flag, right? So I'd say we're just gonna have to wait and see, but we're not gonna get any better information that we have out of this anyway. So
yeah, I think it's good fodder for the internet though to kind of look into and make assumptions on. But I think Nate's exactly right. We got to let this mature a little bit. I actually said this I was on a show, and I said most of everything you hear in this situation at first is going to be fragmentary. It's going to be emotionally charged. And it's going to be incorrect.
Yep.
And that's just from handling situations like that over decades. I've seen it all happen. Terrible situations. It's all just people losing their minds and everything. And then a couple of days later, and they're going to talk to this guy. They're going to say, okay, look, what's going on? And we'll start finding some things out if they let us, right? But, there are things that I think are going to come out here shortly, and we just have to wait.
But I will say, they are not going to let this crisis go to waste. Whether this is a false flag or not, it does not matter, because you're already seeing it. You've already seen the announcement. All Afghan refugees will be looked at to be denaturalized. We'll say all immigrants from third world countries looked at to be denaturalized, right? 500 more National Guard troops to be deployed to DC. So you're seeing the immediate ramifications of this, which make you think is like, okay, this is exactly what would happen after a false flag. But at the same time, people in power, and I'm sure Chris knows, like, they're not going to let the crisis go to waste.
No.
Regardless of whether they knew it was going to happen or not.
Negative. Yep. This is an opportunity in the chaos. There was a movie, I think it was, did you ever see Sicario? Great movie.
Oh, yeah.
There was a second one where that guy, Josh Brolin's character, says, somebody asked, well, what are we going to do about this? And he said, we are going to spectacularly overreact.
Yes.
Right. And that's what you're going to see here. And the rhetoric and the BS and all the, you know, just people in DC are blaming everybody for everything now. And, you know, it'll settle down, but you're right. I think you're going to see them push a few agendas forward in the chaos.
Regardless of false flag or organic, they're going to take advantage of it. Never. What did Obama always say? Never let a crisis go to waste.
Never let a good crisis go to waste. Yeah. Hey guys, just FYI to everybody watching and everybody else, like I have a hard stop in 45 minutes, and there is literally no chance that we're going to get through all of these super chats. So I just want to warn everybody, like, you know, as much as I appreciate the support, like, don't waste your money because we're not going to get through all the ones we have thus far.
Can you leave your computer set on this time?
Yeah, I probably could.
If you got a hard out, and then if there is, I don't know if I can go through them though. Can I click on them? No, I can't click on them. Whatever, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we can rip. Okay, so this cool guy says, I work for the Orange Man. Cash was planted near Trump. Devin Nunes brought Cash, who was a random bureaucrat, into the White House file basement to look at January 6 files. Trump didn't know who he was before then, and it's unclear how Nunes knew Cash.
Interesting.
Yeah, Kash Patel went to the Hill. He was over there on a TDY assignment, worked under Nunes, right? That was the relationship there. Cash was a line attorney over at DOJ, and he did a lot of assignments in different parts of the organizations around the government. So he was TDY to the Hill. They look at the January 6th stuff, and he was also big on all of the Crossfire Hurricane stuff too. And that's how him and Trump became acquainted, because he said he felt, you know, Trump was being victimized and this, that, and the other. And he became a Trump loyalist, right?
And Trump loves that.
Yeah, but now you have Celebrity Apprentice going on, where he's putting all these people in place based upon loyalty, not necessarily based upon the ability to execute the mission effectively for the American people. And we've seen Cash make some questionable calls, you know, in the last few months on some things that were born more from lack of maturity, lack of experience. I think his intent is good, but I don't think he knows how to do the job that he's been entrusted with.
Yeah.
I remember Chris about that next. Some of these things that he has going on that I just want to get your perspective as somebody who's high up in the FBI of. We'll talk about what he's doing with his girlfriend and these lawsuits and flying her around to WWE events on his private jet. Like, all this is just like putting out tweets about like how his girlfriend is a country music sensation and everybody needs to leave her alone. Like, the FBI director is like, really?
How about after they've already?
I'm sure, but
they've charged a suspect in Charlie Kirk's murder, and then subsequently the deputy or the director of the FBI tweets that they are still investigating 6 different theories that he read online. I'm like, oh, that's going to be pretty good for the fucking defense's case. You didn't cross those T's before you fucking charge the suspect, dude?
Well, this is a great example of knowing when to just shut up. Just stop. Don't say anything. And Nate and I talked about it briefly when I was on his show, but you can't run FBI operations via the social media, nor can you run FBI operations while you're chasing social media approval.
That is what he's doing, Chris. You can tell. It's a way to failure real fast, because the FBI has to be more interested in the investigative work and the outcomes versus how do we look to the public. How do we look? That's what it feels like. That's what the whole thing feels like right now.
Right. Well, look, at every day I get something that says, you know, we're in Memphis, we arrested 150 people, and right. And I look at it and I say, this is what we used to call the baffle them with bullshit approach, right? You give me a bunch of numbers, okay, you arrested 150 people last night. Great. How many of those people, what did you arrest them for? One. How many of those people are actually going to be prosecuted? Right? How did the quality of life improve in Memphis? Because you took all these people off the street. Why didn't you do it before? You know, all these questions come up on a more of a, don't give me, like Nate, it'd be like if you guys went out on a raid or you guys were doing stuff and you said, hey, we visited 19 sites and we blew off 10,000 rounds of ammo.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What was the mission? What was the mission success from that? Yeah.
Exactly. What happened? Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I find that they're doing now is that they're putting this stuff out in the name of transparency. And I'm thinking, how about instead of transparency, we give people some context on, hey, you don't have to tell them sensitive investigative stuff. But what you can tell them is, hey, we're in Memphis right now because we have a serious gang problem. The locals are overwhelmed. We got to get some more resources in there. We bring federal authority and resources. This is what we're going to do to clean up certain areas around Memphis. We're not going to tell you where because we don't want to forewarn the adversary, right? But you can tell people stuff like that. But instead of just showing up and every day I see, yeah, we arrested another 18 people today. I'm like, ugh, okay. But
I saw one the other day. They were like, we arrested 100 child traffickers. And I think that's the only thing they said with zero context of like, who are these people? Can you show me their photos? Are you prosecuting them? Because I never heard anything after that.
Well,
he dropped a headline from your Twitter.
Yeah,
that's what he does every time though. Like in the interview that I just was looking at, and she asked, she's like, should the American people, expect more to come from the Epstein case that they're demanding, something like that? And his answer was he started dropping statistics on how much fentanyl they've seized. And I'm like, what the hell does that have to do with anything?
No, and I think that's great. But see, again, if I was sitting in a room with a bunch of the bureau folks, I'd say, all right, folks, why weren't we doing this before? What aren't we doing that we're out there chasing corner drug dealers? What aren't we doing that the Bureau should be doing to protect the American people? Because that's a zero-sum situation. I take agents off of counterintelligence or public corruption cases or take your pick, and I have them out there chasing nickel and dime bag drug dealers. You know what I mean? What do you want, right?
Yeah.
And I think that they're misusing some of that resource also because FBI agents are not street cops. And every time Kash comes on and he says, we're letting good cops be cops, first of all, the agents roll their eyes because they're not cops, and the cops roll their eyes because agents aren't cops.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? And there's different roles there. And when we would work with the police, we would show up and say, hey, they own everything. We're here. What do you need? And sometimes they would tell us, can you please take this over? We can't do this. Okay, we got it. Right?
Yeah.
That's the relationship. And if they want to be in charge, hey, we're in. What do you need? We'll get behind the push. Right.
Yep.
But he's trying to get out there in front and get that social media, going. And hey, tell me this, every interview, how many times does he have to mention under the leadership of President Trump, under the leadership of this, under the leadership?
It's like, I don't care. Aren't you supposed to be nonpartisan, dude?
Yeah, exactly. At least they used to hide it better before.
Right.
Well, I think you had folks that understood how to play the game a little better. You can thank the administration for their support, right?
Right.
You can say, hey, the administration has a very low tolerance for criminal activity. That's why we're here to help this community. It's a community at risk. We're going to come in here and help clean this shit up. All right, done.
Yeah. It doesn't, and honestly, it doesn't matter which side any citizen is on. Even anyone with a brain should recognize that the second that you just take for granted that institutions of the American government are going to be partisan to whatever administration's in, that weakens the entire country, like in a really serious way. Like there have to be things that people can rely on being impartial, and there aren't now.
Well, the biggest one for me is like I say, it's not just Kash Patel; it's this entire subset of the administration. Look at Pam Bondi, the attorney general. I mean, think about Bill Barr. Bill Barr and Trump went at it because Bill Barr constantly would be like, "I'm not fucking doing that, dude."
Yeah.
But now you have this like mouthpiece of like, "Hey, you know that she's just there to yap whatever Trump wants her to," and then like Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense. We used to have, look at Mattis. Madison basically told Trump to go fuck himself half the time because he's like, I'm the big dog in charge of the military, not you, man. Mind your own business. I'll take care of it.
Right.
Whereas now you got Hegseth, who's just another mouthpiece for whatever the administration wants. So it kind of just feels like that's how, to Chris, to your point, it's the apprentice government. It's the celebrity apprentice government. And that's what we're seeing out of it, which is it kills the faith of the American people, to Jesse's point, like looking at this, just rolling their eyes like, oh, here we go again.
Well, and even if you're on this side, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, like, you know, it's going to come back around in reverse. Like, even if people are all, yeah, like our team's winning, it's like, you fucking idiot. There's no teams, dude. This is going to come. Even if you think you're winning, this is going to now come back worse the next time the other side. And then it's going to be worse. And it's just like, it's all bad. It's all bad.
There's no team here.
Yes.
There's no team.
There's one team.
Should be American.
There's the team for the American people.
Yes.
Right. And that's what's always my thing. Yeah. There was are we doing good for the American people? Yes or no? Not are the Dems or the Republicans, who's happy with us? Because you got to play the games to get money and funding and all that. Yeah, okay, got it. But are we doing good for the American people? Yeah. And I think that's been lost over the years across many of our key infrastructure organizations in the government. And, you know, some of them are they're flat out partisan, man. And it's terrible. Yeah. Terrible.
Chris, I wanted to ask you about with Kash, with this stuff with his girlfriend, and also kind of the controversy of he lives in Las Vegas. Now, I know they've talked about like he's required to use the government private jet for travel and all that. Okay, whatever. I don't think he's required to use his private jet to go pick up his girlfriend in Nashville to fly her around to WWE events and her singing events. And then also, would that be normal for an FBI director to like live halfway across the country and to commute to work on a private jet? Like, it just seems to me like for all of us, if we got a job in DC or in Virginia, right, Quantico, wherever you're at, like you would at least buy a second home there or rent an apartment there, or like you would live there. You wouldn't be like, you know what I mean? It just seems like the American people are just going this, and it's not just that. He also now he's got a personal FBI SWAT team security detail for his girlfriend in Nashville.
I heard about that.
It's not your wife. It's not your kids. Like, how is this? To me, it's like you're the FBI director, and all of this just seems so unprofessional. What's your thoughts on that?
Agreed on the substandard professionalism. Also, it's a lack of maturity, I think, to not know how that appears outside of the station that you hold, right? One of the things that I saw when I first saw that, like the SWAT team and all that. And
he yelled at them, right?
I understand he was unhappy with them because they knocked off at a certain time. They finished and they went home. And I understand that he was unhappy with that. See, my thing, the FBI is not in the business of, as an organization, like we're not like the Secret Service where we have a protective division. Now, the FBI director and the attorney general have protective details. I used to oversee those details when I was,
which makes sense,
management role. Okay. And they were all FBI agents, SWAT qualified. They all drove the black Suburbans around DC and all that stuff. Right. But that was for those two people. And the FBI director has the ability to manage resources. And it comes down to this. Yes, you can, but should you?
That's a good point.
And this is where I think Kash Patel is getting himself in a bit of hot water. Flying around on the jets, he was the one criticizing Christopher Wray for doing it, heavy on the front end. Now he's in doing it.
Yep.
And people, the American people will tolerate a lot. The American people hate a hypocrite.
Yep.
That's what I've always found, right?
True.
They'll tolerate a lot of BS, but they hate a hypocrite. And that's what it's starting to sound like. And when you're flying around to, whatever events, they go to, hey, he's a human being. He can go wherever he wants and do what he wants. But I'll tell you what, taking the G5 or whatever they're using now, it used to be G5, but taking the Bureau jet everywhere and then picking up your girlfriend and someplace he might be okay doing it under the broad interpretation of the policy. But should he do it? The answer is no. He's not on a strong enough ground level with the people of the United States or the people inside the Bureau, right?
That's what I was going to ask next, Chris, is like, what does that look like? You're the director of the FBI. It pisses me off as an American citizen, and I know we all know what failed leaders look like when you're working under them and tutelage of them. That's got to just, I imagine, so discontent among the entire FBI below him. Like watching this guy do this, be like, hey, we're at work every day, working our asses off, and you're off doing this. You know, you're out in Vegas partying and, you know, flying your girlfriend to wrestling meets on the private jet. It just seems
it's a lack of, Nate, it's a lack of awareness. It's a lack of professionalism, a lack of maturity. I mean, it's a lack of judgment, right? When you think about those things, well, I'm authorized to take the aircraft. That doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah.
Right. To me, it's like, hey, let's jump into Suburbans. If I got to go somewhere and you guys got to be in my hip pocket and we're going to drive here, I'd rather do an 8-hour drive in a couple of Suburbans and burn the gas if I must, rather than taking the G5 and doing that. You know, if I've got to go. Louis Freeh was the director of the FBI. And I remember when I used to be in the Newark field office, there were a couple of times I'd be walking down out of the office to the parking garage, and Louis Freeh would be walking in with one dude. He used to travel with a retired agent with his whole sole protective detail. I'd walk through I'd be walking into the parking garage and he'd be coming through. I'd go, oh, hey, how you doing, Mr. Freeh? Oh, good. How are things? And you know, nothing. He didn't want any of that shit. Now, after 9/11, though, I will tell you, after 9/11, Mueller didn't like it either, but they forced him to do it.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, after 9/11 is when that really came around. They forced Mueller to start having the detail back, having all of his, you know, minders and the security, because we had just had that attack. And I think it's just kind of carried through the years. But yeah, he shouldn't do it. To summarize, shouldn't be doing it. Bad call, bad look. I wish he would reevaluate that. I don't want his girlfriend to be unsafe, but I think if you're a man of means, which I think he is, I would hire some private security and make sure that she's.
If you were that concerned with it, yeah.
No, I mean, this is a real straightforward problem solve. Is if you want your girlfriend to be safe, don't tell anyone she's your fucking girlfriend and she'll be safe.
There's that.
I don't know if you can hide that as effectively these days. Right. But I'll tell you what, she lives in Nashville, correct?
Yeah.
Why don't you come live up here with me in DC? Well, no, I don't.
That's what everybody's saying.
You know, come live with me in DC. You can go to Nashville, back and forth, whatever, right? But you know, there's a lot of different ways he can handle it. I think it's a bad look, though.
I agree. With that.
Yep.
Okay, let me catch some more of these here. So President Nixon says Epstein is a good example of making it Democrats versus Republicans rather than elites, politicians versus the American people. Yeah. And loneliness and addiction are the number one killer to distract from corruption.
I've said this. I keep saying this. It's like, as fun as it is to make fun of Trump and the Bubba and all this stuff going on, if all we're concerned with is Trump in the files or isn't he in the files, we're missing, like, we're not seeing the forest through the trees, guys. I've been saying that. Like, it's not about Clinton. It's not about Trump. It's about an entire apparatus that we would like to learn about. But, you know, we talked about that before. I don't think we're going to learn anything.
No. Yeah. No, and I'll tell you what, I wouldn't doubt at all if there's another Epstein-like couple of operations going on around the globe
right now. I'm guaranteed there are.
For sure.
Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah. I heard Bustamante talking about how they could just get trained, like in the agency, that you know, if they're like in Africa, they're dealing with some warlord and they're trying to get some information or some kind of you know, they have an operation that they're running, and what they require to get it done is for them to go get the guy a boy, that they'll just do it. And it's like yeah,
you know, you got to keep in mind, we as Green Berets were told, and there was a famous Green Beret that Obama tried to have him court-martialed because he beat the shit out of this Afghanistan elder that was raping a bunch of the boys. Mm-hmm. And he found out, and he told him to stop, and the guy said, I'm not going to stop, and he almost beat him to death. And they tried to court-martial him and ruin his career over it. They told us to look the other way. Like, sorry, it's cultural, man.
Yeah.
Like, and that was at our level. And that was our own government telling us that. So imagine what's going on the high side stuff of that.
Well, if
Yeah,
you
the
green light you
agency-
guys to take the matters into your own hands, I mean, then you guys are going to start icing a lot of pedophiles over there, and it's going to get, you know what I mean? It's like if you have to do it at
the problem with it is like to Chris's point, if you're, or to your point, Jesse, talking about, hey, I'm trying to influence this warlord, which is what we did in Afghanistan. All the elders were warlords at the end of the day. Well, what happens if I beat the shit out of this warlord? Well, now I've just me personally, I've just completely eroded the entire relationship in this entire region that I'm trying to establish an American fortification and connection with. And now potentially I'm going to get blown up, and my entire team's going to get blown up as we leave the area because we disrespected the village elder. And I know it's dark and it's like, this is gross type of shit to talk about, but that's the type of stuff we had to look the other way against for if we wanted to get the strategic missions accomplished. Right.
Well, Nate, have you ever heard someone say, and again, a philosophical problem, we used to run into this too. Do you do the lesser evil for the greater good?
Yep, exactly.
And I'm not saying, child, assault is lesser than anything, but I'm saying in the big scheme of the bow tie wearing DC people, is that the lesser evil for the greater good that you, me, or anybody else who's going to be on the ground, you're sitting there saying, wait a minute, this isn't, no. And they're going to say, step aside and shut up.
Yeah. Well, is it worth ruining this relationship, or is this something that we need the 8,000 soldiers this regional warlord can provide so that we can bring down the Taliban?
Yeah.
Those are the type of things. And then you talk about the high side stuff of this, when that's warlords in Afghanistan. We're potentially talking about influencing leaders of countries and things like that now at the CIA level and the ground branch level and all these different things. So to your guys' point, like to Chris's point, is there probably more Epsteins out there? I guarantee it.
For
sure. Of course there is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But for global power that most of us aren't part of, and most people don't even think is out there, global power, that's where it is.
Yeah.
It's that lesser evil for the greater good. And
Chris, did you there was something I wanted to ask you earlier that I forgot about, and I just thought of it right now, was that so given that you were in counterterror, like when you hear numbers of refugees that are taken out of Afghanistan, like in the withdrawal, and they're coming into the United States, and you could just common sense know the vetting is not going to be very good. Like you have the type of background, context, insight that almost no one else does. So like what's your reaction to seeing that, like numbers like that? Like, what do you think? You know what I mean?
It was completely irresponsible by the previous administration to do that. And from what I understood from people I knew is that we had lists of names of people who were supposedly vetted or validated or whatever. What the administration went to was, that'll take too long, just do head count.
Oh God.
Right? Go to head count. So if an aircraft, whatever you have was C-17, will hold X number of these people, we're not sitting here with a clipboard trying to do, hey, show me your ID and all this stuff. They just went with the, hey, 30,000 people out here, we can fit X number of people on every aircraft, get them out of here. And you saw where in one of the communications, Biden even wrote himself that somebody wrote and said that the president said err on the side of overdoing it.
And part of the reason why we didn't get out all of the family members and a lot of the interpreters and the actual Afghan SF guys that worked with us is because of exactly what Chris just talked about, because the area got flooded and they stopped actually trying to, hey, all of the seats on this C-17 are going to the vetted Afghans that we have. And so a lot of those vetted Afghans never even got outside of the country because of exactly that, where we just said, funnel them all in, fit them on the jets.
When I served as the director of the terrorist screening center for the U.S. government, and it was one of between us and National Counterterrorism Center, we were one of the primary validation, vetting, identity management operations that was put together after 9/11, because we were terrible at it before 9/11. And I know that they weren't checking people. I'll put it that way. They weren't checking folks, because I still hear from people. They weren't checking people. And how could you, when you have just a bum rush of people running up on you and you're saying, where's your ID? I have no ID. These people don't even know what their own birthday is. Right?
That's actually true.
They don't. I mean, I don't say that to be mean, but they don't know what their own birth date is. And a lot of people don't realize that the Muslims use the lunar calendar instead of we use that Gregorian calendar. So they don't even know what their dates of birth are a lot of times. I mean, that we could even make sense of, right?
Yep.
And we used to find that when they would come to us for certain things, they were either born, and this was battlefield sweeps, Nate, what that people would do. They were either born on the 1st of January or the 1st of June.
No, that's true. 100%.
Right. So,
wild,
it was hard to validate. So you got these people. I don't know what
and Chris, to your point, 60% of them are named Muhammad.
Yeah, they're all named Muhammad. Do you know how many Muhammad Khans there are in the world?
Yeah. And I'm not saying that, again, to your point, to be racist or rude, but that's the reality of it.
True.
Yeah.
It's true. Because we were looking at one time, like the Muhammad Khan. This guy's name's Muhammad Khan. There's millions and millions of guys with this name.
6 million other ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you vet somebody when you have screaming and yelling and there's all kind of hell breaking loose and aircraft are taking off? They just said, all right, the hell with it. Count heads, get them on the aircraft.
Yep.
And I know that they weren't validating these people. They weren't interviewing these people. And now we have
no. Yeah. No.
Yeah. But now we have this threat environment that is emerging in the United States. We let all these people in from other countries that are of questionable background as well. How many days, months, years are going to go by before we have another set of shootings or a set of somebody disgruntled or another again? And here's what I tell people is also, I guess during the Biden years at the southern border, there were between 300 and 400 people that were on the terrorist watch list that were encountered at the ports of entry. They let some of them in anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, okay, that's fine, right? That they were encountered. How about the serious operators who knew better than to come to the port of entry? They actually snuck through the border like they would infiltrate. Nate, I asked you this last time. Would you go to a port of entry somewhere to do an operation? No.
Not under the Biden administration. All I got to do is fly to Honduras or Venezuela and just work my way up through Central America and just walk in. Yeah,
exactly. And you're not going to the port of entry. You're going to sneak in.
Yep.
Right. You're not encountering Border Patrol or CBP or whoever. So they just couldn't do it. It was too big of a problem. They couldn't do it. And now we have this. And here's the problem with the current administration is trying to clean it up, but they can't.
Yeah, there's no way. How do you even do it?
They can't do it, right? And now when you're talking about, well, we're going to take away everybody's citizenship and we're going to denaturalize, we're going to deport. That's all shit talking. They're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you on that.
You have to wait. You almost have to wait for them to commit something or get caught up where an informant gives them up,
and that's, you can't do that on a wide number scale.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Chris, that brings up another something I just thought of that I wanted to ask you about, and I can't remember. What year did you retire again?
2020.
So, what did you think about these stories? Like, as an example, the supposed foiled kidnapping plot against Whitmer, when you find out that like 70 or 80% of the people were informants. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you could talk about that case or not, but like, what are we looking at there? Is that like just entrapment or is it just bad? I mean, like, what are we looking at?
It wouldn't be entrapment because they have 100 lawyers looking at that stuff and they're saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't say this. Right. So they know what to do. So they're not going to get the entrapment. What you had there was what we used to call the self-licking ice cream cone. Right.
Okay. Huh.
That behavior is incentivized. Hey, you want a good write-up for a promotion. The boss has to get his write-up. We want to get an interdiction. We want to get a terrorism thing. Oh, we don't have enough sophisticated operations going on in the division. Let's get this undercover going. That's where all that stuff starts feeding on itself. There were cases. I remember when I was in charge of a field office. These guys brought in an undercover operation. And I'm looking at this. I'm saying, this is ridiculous. What are you talking about? I said, absolutely not. This is ridiculous. But other places, the bosses would say, hey, I need this for my rating. We don't have
That's the same way in the military for stuff like this. OER bullets, we call it. Officer Evaluation Report bullets to do some dumb shit that made no sense just so you could do exactly that.
but that's where I think that Gretchen Whitmer thing, that thing grew into its own. It took a life of its own. You have a couple of kind of fat dudes who really probably couldn't effect a really good kidnapping or whatever they were going to do. And all the folks around them built this infrastructure and environment to kind of egg them on and coax them on. And then nobody in the bureau side was saying, hey, why don't we just go out and pimp slap a few of these guys and tell them, knock it off. We know what you're talking about. And these guys would have shit themselves and the whole thing would have went away.
Mm-hmm. What happened to those guys? Did they get rung up? Like
no, they got that shit got thrown out.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing. We used to talk about a lot of these young Muslim guys. And people would be saying how they're, this, that, and the other are getting radicalized. And I used to say, look, these guys are one girlfriend away from being normal.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
They're one girlfriend away from being normal. The reason they're acting weird and they're into the Quran and they're doing all this stuff is because they don't have a girlfriend.
A little bit of purpose, right?
That's it.
A little bit of purpose in their lives, and all of a sudden it changes.
Yeah. But that's where everybody being there like, oh, we got to go and we got to roll this guy up. And I think, a 17-year-old kid, he's in high school. No, I don't want anything bad to happen. If you have evidence that he's going to shoot a school or something, yeah, go put your foot in his ass, right?
Yeah.
Get it done. Can't have people hurt. But when they would come with some of these things and say, I'd be sitting there like, oh, yeah. Now, why don't we just go and talk to this kid?
Yeah, well, instead of like, hey, let's try to propagandize this kid into thinking he's going to carry out an attack. That way we can set him up and then arrest him for it. No,
you just go out and say, hey, man, people are worried about you. You're acting weird, saying weird shit. What's going on?
Yeah.
And you talk to him like a human being.
And the fact that they knew the FBI knew their name. Like Chris, FBI knows your name. FBI knows your name.
Headlines. That doesn't make headlines for the bureau. That doesn't make headlines for the case officer.
And you don't get promoted, right?
And you don't get promoted for that.
So but that's the problem. That whole Michigan thing, that was in a nutshell, very representative of how you can build those cases. And if there's no adult supervision and there's no level head to say, what are you doing? This is terrible. Stop it. I mean, I had to do that many times in my my life where with the bureau is like, what are we doing? No, this is ridiculous. Stop it. And people say, oh, okay, right. Or tell me why we're doing this. Oh, because you got a bad file review last time and you don't have enough cases and you made up this bullshit. No, right. So I think a lot of it comes down to the leadership, Jesse. It's a lead, and the bureau incentivizes it. And I think that's why whenever I go through my sermon on the bureau, one of the 3 areas they have to change, they have to take a look at their operational practices.
Mm-hmm.
Are they still valid in today's threat environment? Are we still looking to build up this, like these fairy tale cases and stuff? And people have got to have the guts. And this is where I think Kash has made another mistake, but you can't fire everybody who disagrees with you.
And he's been doing that. Yeah.
Right. Do you think any of those people left in the FBI will ever tell him the truth again?
Nope. No.
Hell no.
Right. I want to keep my job. I'm not telling you the truth.
Especially when I fired you I watched you fire somebody that's been here for 18 years, which he just did.
Yeah.
That's a bad idea, boss. Okay. Next thing you know, you get a letter the next day saying, hey, pack up your shit and get out.
Yeah.
Great point.
So Nate, I mean, when you were an SF dude and you guys all sat around and did your thing and say you disagreed with your officer.
Yep. Happens all the time.
It happens all the time. And you work it out. And I think they're losing the ability to do that at the bureau right now. And I think it's going to hurt them badly in the long run.
I just looking at, I'm pretty good at sizing people up. Just kind of, if I've seen them talk a little bit, I can get a pretty good gauge on their personality. And I think Kash is much more prone to, like, he's a guy who's going to default to firing it's like an insecure thing. Like I was going to say,
I think he's insecure.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of it comes from.
And he shit cans him. Then he goes to Trump and he's like, look, we weeded out some bad apples at the bureau that were whatever. And Trump's like, okay, good job, Kash.
Well, and to Chris's point, that's where the social media acceptance thing, much of it, you can tell it's from an insecurity of like, I need people to think I'm doing a good job is what it seems like.
How about this? How about you just do a good job?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that makes it way easier, right?
And to me,
You
it's
just
like,
do a good job.
yeah, I did something recently on my YouTube channel where I did one of those little green, like what is that, green screen things or some shit you do.
Yeah.
And I said, just stand and deliver, FBI. That's all.
Yeah.
Stand and deliver. No more social media, nothing else. Hey, we're going to come in here. You know, the FBI, we're the biggest gang in town. We're going to take these other gangs and we're going to shit can them. When you're doing federal time, you don't come back. Right?
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
But they can't do it, man. They just can't help themselves. So
it's better for the image of the institution to not be on there either. Like I remember when they did when the CIA was doing those like woke commercials. What the fuck was that?
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing?
I was watching. I was like, who is this for? Is this like, are you trying to just advertise to China that we are not the adversary you thought we were? Like, what the fuck is this? I am a second generation Mexican American who did not buy into the patriarchy. You're like, what the fuck?
And I have depression and all this kind of shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. With an anxiety disorder. She said with an anxiety disorder.
Oh my God.
Hey, did you see the new Air Force hike video they put out?
No, is it good?
No, not
it's
yet.
It's actually good, man. They did a good job. Yeah. It says this. It starts out right. It says, 80% of the earth is covered in water, 30% in land. 100% is the air, and we own it all. And all you see is American air power.
Yeah, I like stuff like that.
Yeah,
yeah. And at the end, it just says, "Hey, man, aim high, Air Force." And I'm thinking, no wokeness, no social justice, no pronouns. Outstanding.
Yeah, no quotas on jet pilots or fighter pilots.
Well, Chris, and like me and my wife love to watch like movies from the 80s and 90s. And so many times, like, when the FBI shows up in the 80s and 90s, that's like the big dog, like nobody knows about the FBI. But when the FBI shows up, that's when the case is going to get solved. And like, it's like this highly respected institution, and you always have this, the cops are pissed off because now the big dogs are here, and that's like that's what the FBI used to feel like, right? Yes, and then like now you've got Kash Patel bitching at people for making fun of his girlfriend on Twitter, and it's like, what are we doing here?
But the Bureau has lost a lot of its gravitas, right, through its own fault. A lot of it was just some of the buffoonery, bad decisions, mistakes made, amateurish shit. And now you got the director shows up at every meeting on TV, and he's wearing a sweat jacket with, he's wearing a windbreaker, like an FBI windbreaker. Everybody else is there in suits or in uniform or whatever.
Yep.
He shows up, and one of my friends, she was an agent, she retired, and I said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" She said, "He looks like a probationary agent, like a new guy trying to fit in." And that's terrible, but it's true. And but I'm thinking, you're the director of the FBI. There's an image. There's a brand, right? And think about it, Jesse. If I was to show up to your house, a couple of FBI guys or ladies, zipped up tight in suits, squared away, polite, saying, "Hey, Mr. Murrow, this is what we got going on. We need to speak with you if you have time. We're from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Can you help us?" Right? Yeah. I've seen some of the buffoonery on social media where people are showing up. They're dressed like they live just a bowling alley. They look terrible, unprofessional, and that's not the Bureau brand. And
I wouldn't believe they were feds if they showed up dressed like that. I mean,
no, you're
if
thinking
they
about,
show up
you're
in the
thinking about like
windbreakers,
super nice suits, sunglasses, showing up to your door, knocking, stone cold faces, and you're like, "Oh shit, the FBI's here." Now you got Kash Patel showing up in his windbreaker, and you're like, "Who's this fucking clown?"
Right. Yeah, hang on, I gotta take this. It's my girlfriend. Hey, it's my girlfriend.
But they don't protect the brand anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I told the director before I retired, I had a meeting with Christopher Wray, and I said, "Look, you're the protector of the FBI brand, sir. Right? I spent 25 years under this brand." And I told him the two most basic currencies that the FBI operates on are its credibility and its competence.
Yeah.
The word of the FBI used to be pretty solid, and the competence was there, where if we weren't the best at something, we were pretty damn good at it. And now you just, a lot of that stuff, they're still good. I mean, they're still very good at things, but it's just people don't believe it anymore.
It's not, that's what I say. The perception, that's not the perception. Like the average person in this comment section will be like, the FBI is fucking terrible at their job.
Well,
whether they whether they aren't or not.
Yeah. Dismantle them. They're corrupt to the core, blah, 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 blah. Right. And you know what? I can't argue with some people when I say, look, the Bureau that I knew changed over time. Mm-hmm. And well, why didn't you do something about it? You know,
it's an institution.
It's a massive bureaucracy.
Yeah, it's a bureaucracy. You can't. One man doesn't change the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
No, but I did what I could where I could. Like look, you know, Nate, in the military, right? Say you're in a battalion, and there's another battalion that sucks real bad, but you're the battalion commander, and your battalion squared away.
Yeah.
And someone comes to you and say, "Well, why didn't you fix that other one?" That's not how. I mean,
I have my limited source of influence is the guys under me. You know what I mean? That's it. That's the only thing I can positively affect at my level.
Agreed. So that's what people don't understand. They think because I was a senior official that I could just change the Bureau, and I changed what I could under my area of oversight, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the Bureau changed over time, and I'm just hoping. And here's what I sum it up like this for folks. When the new leadership came in, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and now they got this third guy in there somewhere. I think what they're going to see is somebody's going to get shit canned, and that third guy is going to move into somebody's position here shortly.
I agree.
Probably right
I think
after
it's
the
coming
holidays.
too.
Yep. Yeah, right after the holidays. But I told them I started out hopeful. Over the past few months, I became skeptical, and now in some areas, I'm a little fearful.
Oof. Well, hearing you say that's not good, because that was going to be my next question for you, Chris.
Yeah.
Was like, how do they fix it? How do you fix? If Trump appoints you today and says, "Look, this is fucked up. How do we start to fix this? How do you even start to rebuild that credibility, rebuild that sort of, at least perceived competence from the American people?"
Well,
that's probably a hard question, but.
You got to rebuild a little bit of that credibility, like I talked about, right? Remember, Nate, when I was on your show and I said, first thing I would do is get up there with I'd be standing behind a podium with the AG talking about the Epstein files and say, "Hey, look, this was mishandled. We screwed up.
Yes.
Here's what we got now. We made some mistakes here. We were new. We didn't understand the scope of the problem, but I'm here to tell you now, this is what we're doing. This is what you're going to get. This is what you're never going to see some of this stuff because it's, just is what it is. And I will take questions. I'll take all the arrows and the friggin' throw the rocks at me and whatever, right? And then you move on. Okay? And then you start just changing again, my three things: leadership environment. You got to change the leadership environment. The culture of the FBI is deficient right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a deficient culture in an organization, the organization can't function properly. I don't care what you do to it. You can buy all the new computers. You can buy all the bullshit you want. If you have a bad culture, can't win. You're going to have bad leadership if you have a bad culture. And the third part is you have to take a look at those the operational parameters that the FBI runs under. Like when they had the thing where everybody was fired up about them supposedly surveilling parents at school board meetings. Well, who authorized that? Who authorized that? That shouldn't have happened. What about that intelligence product that talking about Christian extremists? And if you go to Latin mass, you're a Christian extremist. That kind of horse shit was signed off on by the leadership. There's not rogue FBI agents out there saying, "Hey, let's go do surveillance at the PTA meeting tonight."
Yeah.
Believe me, they have other shit to do. They don't want to do that stuff. But somebody told them, "Hey, we got it rolled down from on high." Just like when you said, "Hey, we were going to do this and then we weren't." Well, you have a bunch of FBI guys and ladies that somebody calls and says, "Hey, you got to go surveil this school board meeting." And they're saying, "Well, excuse me?"
Right.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course,
the thought that I had about that kind of connects to all that too was I was just thinking about how I remember watching Kash, like when I was talking about how he handled the public facing part of the Charlie Kirk case. And I remember, Chris, you and I talked about this offline about how I was like, well, now I at least understand why leadership in these organizations is so cagey, because if they give vague answers, they don't answer the question, they can't get tripped up on stuff they said later when new information is like, just shut your dumb mouth. And that way, that's like, they're masters of not giving information up because it protects the image of them never being shown to be wrong. And it was like, that now made perfect sense to me from watching Kash do it incorrectly, that I realized what I had been looking at my whole life, not really understanding what they were doing. Because people think like the impression of the FBI is that they know everything and they're choosing not to share the information with us because they're not sharing information, when in reality, I'm sure in many cases they don't know either, but they're just not giving anything out because they don't want to get tripped up later. And it's just that seems to be the correct way to protect the institution. You don't want to give the community, or like the public, that you never want to let them see you be incompetent, wrong, or proven wrong, in the future or whatever.
Well, that's part of it, but you also want to make sure that you're not giving out bad information that you have to go back later and correct. Yeah. And you could saw when Kash was like, we got him, we don't got him, we got him, we don't got him. And Nate and I talked about just the abysmal handling of the scene of the shooting. Everything there was just like amateur hour. I don't know who was in charge of what. It doesn't seem like anybody was in charge of anything, actually. But when you're doing a discussion like that, where you're telling people, here's what happened, this is what we're doing from a strategy standpoint, and then you stop. Mm-hmm. And all the other stuff that starts happening, and then you're going to find later, like I said earlier, you're going to say those little fragments of information, the emotion that was driving everything, a lot of that stuff's going to be incorrect. At first, the governor of the shooting in D.C., the governor of West Virginia said that both of them were killed in the shooting.
I reported that. I reported that based on what the governor said. Yeah.
Yeah. And you think he would know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, he took that initial reporting. They didn't want to let it mature a little bit because, I think the velocity of reporting is more important now than the actual validity of the of the reporting, right? You got to get it out there first. It's all over social media, and then everybody's running like chickens with their heads cut off on certain things. The Bureau can't afford that.
Yeah. Well, Chris, to your point, I waited a whole day to put my video out on the DC shooting while everybody else clamored over themselves to get it out there. Cause and that's what I usually do. I'm like, let me get 24 hours of time to see what develops. And I'm glad I did. Cause then we found out that he was a CIA asset. Yeah. We found out all these things that I would have had no idea about. But if I can do that as a random dipshit behind a camera, how can the FBI not do that?
Well, because they're chasing social media approval and that whole, again, over transparency of things. I mean, when you have to put out and Dan Bongino, he's a veteran podcaster. He puts out something it was a little while ago, but he says FBI reporting or deploying to this location. Mm-hmm. For what?
Yeah.
What for? Nobody knows. And people are actually in the comments. What is this? Where are you going? What's going on? Right. Yeah. And again, that's adrenaline, and you have to learn to handle that stuff.
And what does that do for the American people? Or the FBI.
Yeah, they can say that, hey, you know what they say? I reported it out on social media within 3.5 minutes of the incident.
Yeah. We're the most transparent FBI ever. And it's like, okay. I don't want you to be the most transparent. I want you to be the best at your fucking job.
Yeah. Be transparently competent.
Yeah.
Do that.
And don't lie.
Because that too.
Don't lie. Just if you can't say something, it was always my policy when we couldn't say something, we would just say, we're not in a point where we can discuss that right now. Mm-hmm. Next.
God, that's what they never do, Chris. They never say that. They always got to find something to say, to your point.
Well, there's an old saying, right? There's a fool always has something to say, and a wise man, or a fool speaks to say something, and a wise man has something to say. Right. And I think when you just have to say something is when you get those mistakes, and you get those, what do they call them, gaffes, where you say something and next thing you're like, oh, that's not what I should have said.
You say something like, I'll see you in Valhalla, brother.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. I think that was a little bit of, again, emotion.
Man.
I saw that for the first time with Nate. I was the last person in the country to see that, and I watched it while we were live streaming, and I was like,
Jesse, I wish I was the last person to see it, actually. But it was kind of like it just. I sat there and I said, you know, I was kind of like,
everybody.
like my neck.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Like,
Dude?
did you ever get that one of like the douche chills, like your neck starts feeling weird? And,
it makes me feel like my blood is going the opposite direction that it normally does. It's like my blood just goes.
But again, good intention, right? He was, you know, trying to express a little bit of whatever.
Yeah.
Didn't come out well because, you know, he's I don't know. Sometimes it's better off just to say nothing and just say, hey, we, you know, our deepest condolences to the Kirk family. You know, we're going to work with them to, you know, make sure they're okay and find out what happened. Yeah. We're not talking about anything else right now. You know, good day.
So I gotta jump here in 8 minutes. I just want to tell you.
Let's just do as many super chats as we can.
Yeah. Let me try. Let me see. Let me just do it like this. Like, since we got to go. Okay. So, Barbara Child's coaching says, my hubby was stationed at Moody Air Force Base for 17 years. He was in for 26. In 2003, a bunch of Afghans were sent to MAFB for flight training. 3 went missing, never found. We always wondered about that. Super sus.
I mean, we did train Afghan pilots. I flew on, oh God, sketchiest shit ever. A few, what were they? MI-17s, I think.
Yeah, the old
Soviet helicopters flown by Afghan pilots, like 2 or 3 of my teammates when we had to come in and out of some areas one time where you're just like, oh boy. Yeah, we trained them. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what else was interesting. People don't know this, but when they brought the Afghan refugees over to the United States, they had them at like Fort Dix, Fort Bliss, and other places. They were putting them in these kind of tent cities. Well, these people just started wandering off the base, and the folks who were there as their minders said, hey, you know, we can't do this. And they were told, you can't stop them. They're not detained here. So they just started wandering off the base, never to be seen again.
I saw this one, and I actually wanted to, when I read this, I wanted to bring it up too, where it says, Dan Bongino said, we can't run a republic like this, then went silent. Yeah, I noticed that too, where, because everybody was speculating at the time, like, what's he referencing? You know, what I've seen has changed me forever, and we can't run a republic like this. And like, I don't know. I mean, like, some people disagree with me. Bongino does not strike me as a similar personality in any way to Kash Patel at all. I think he's like to me, I look at him and he's like a very, very different type of person than Kash. And, but he reports to him, which puts, you know, it's like the idea, like, honestly, that's how I think it's like the idea of Dan Bongino reporting to fucking Kash Patel. You're like, that feels backwards, dude.
Yeah,
to me, anyway.
I'll tell you what, real quick on that.
It does feel backwards.
Yeah.
Real quick on that. I don't think Bongino would have survived the confirmation hearing.
I've heard that. He didn't even have to undergo the full security clearances and everything for that.
Yeah, I don't know what they did for him, but I'm sure he might have gotten a couple of lick him and stick him type of things, right?
I have heard that.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this, you know, when you get into a position like that, and just based on some of the things I used to do, and a bunch of people come in and sit down and say, okay, sirs, this is what you're now responsible for. This is what you now cover. These things are going on right now. And they get a case of the holy shit for reals. Like, oh, I'm responsible for that. I think it gave him a different perspective as opposed to all the shit talking on the front end. You know, we're going to shut down the FBI headquarters. It's going to be a museum, blah, 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 all that stuff. Once you get a case of it for reals and you see what's going on, and it's probably scared them. Like, they're thinking, like, Kash was a low-level dude.
Yeah.
At DOJ. He was a low-level guy. So I don't know what he talks about all the stuff he used to do, but he's a low-level dude, right? And to get in there and all of a sudden you have all this stuff put on you as the FBI director and the number 2 in charge, I think it scared the shit out of him.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, we got one of my buddies in the chat, Peaches, who pretends that he's an Air Force combat controller. He's really actually Air Force security forces. For everybody in the chat, do not let Peaches trick you into thinking he was actually a JTAC. Right. So I just wanted everybody to know that in the chat real quick. Fake CCT in the chat, by the way. But anyway, we love him regardless. Also, he's 4'8", so there's that. All right, let's keep moving.
Okay, so we got one here that limited hangout, CIA tactics that dangles part of the truth and conceals the rest. Yeah, I don't know.
They're professional bullshit artists.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we knew when we worked with them, we knew they were always lying to us. We knew it.
Yeah, I never liked having those fucking dudes around in Afghanistan when they would show up either.
They would never tell us the truth about anything. They always lied to us, and he used to kick my ass when they would not tell us their real names. I'm like, come on, man. I know your name's not, whatever.
Yeah.
They all use pseudonyms.
Mm-hmm.
And
even with the feds, even with you guys, even with the FBI, they use fake names.
Oh yeah, the CIA is completely detached from everything else.
I think especially with us, they use their fake names.
Probably, yeah.
But they used to answer the phone and they pick up the phone and say, "This is Jim." What are you talking about, right? So yeah, and it was just insane working with them. So yeah, they're all professional bullshitters.
What do you guys think about? I'm sorry, like I have to get this question out as I just thought of it. What do you guys think about the Kash and his girlfriend suing this guy over?
That's dude. That's gonna take like 10 minutes to deep dive by itself. It's fucking ridiculous. It's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Let me just say this real quick. She is suing for defamation through implication, which I don't think anybody that knows the law has ever heard anybody try to sue for that.
It's ludicrous.
He's suing. She's suing and saying that defamation was implied by a picture, not by anything said, which is just
someone said someone made a post about a honeypot.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
Photo of Kash and his smoke show girlfriend.
Yeah,
and it's like
you can't imply defamation. It literally breaks defamation to begin with.
Yeah. I think what that gentleman did, that the podcasting guy is a former FBI guy. What he did was he implied that she was part of an operation by
she's saying he implied. All he did was post a picture of them. He said no words. That's where the implication was. Now, it was in response to somebody's comment about her being a honeypot, but like, you don't get in defamation is very strict for public figures.
I know
it's almost impossible to win as a plaintiff. And like somebody posted a picture, like that's but I think they're just trying to bully. They're trying to bully him.
I think they were just trying to stick a pin in it where they were like, let it get out that we sued this person and people will stop saying it publicly.
Yeah.
Or if now Kash has a prior relationship with that guy too.
Right? Oh, I didn't know that.
Kash has a prior relationship with this guy.
That makes it more interesting.
Job.
So Kash really is behind the lawsuit then. What a weasel, dude.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Even if this isn't going to go anywhere, I think Kash can make the process the punishment.
Yeah, and that's what suing for defamation is all about most of the time, Chris. They almost never goes to trial, but you're using the process.
Money and resource and all that.
That's what it's all about.
That's my guess.
No, I think you're 100% right. That makes complete sense.
So, and it'll give a lot of people pause for sure. Like if they've got
to Chris's point, you can, as the plaintiff, you can make somebody invest $50,000 in legal fees and then just go, never mind, I'm dropping the case.
Yeah. Right. After you bled them over there. Like people have to mortgage their homes. The government is the best at it.
Yeah.
They bring you through a process that you've had to mortgage your home. You've had to do all this for legal. And then at the end of it, they'll say, yeah, we're not going to pursue this anymore.
Never mind.
After they just destroyed your life.
Yeah. You drive it.
King.
Yep. I think you're 100% right on that.
Yeah. Hey, I hope you thought that meme was funny, guy. Hey, you like you like your new HELOC on your house, dude?
Yeah. I mean, but that's what they can do. That they can do that to you. So kind of terrible.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got to jump. I got to take my family to a thing. We got to be there in 15 minutes. I apologize. This is awesome. I could have done this for another 3 hours, but
hell yeah, man.
Always good to see you guys.
Thank you guys for coming on.
Hey, if I could ask for you guys' help and your audience, just started up my own YouTube channel.
Oh yeah.
It's called Ordinary People 9513. All one word, Ordinary People 9513, where I give my opinions on things day to day and look at all the buffoonery that goes on. And love it if anybody can just stop by the channel and leave me a note, tell me if it sucks, what I can do better, or if you like what you see, it'd be awesome and I'd appreciate it.
Dude, next time, Chris, you should host the stream on your channel only, and I'll join. I'm sure Nate would also, and then that way they'll have to come to your channel to watch.
We can definitely get that.
And Jesse, what I'll do is
going together.
Yeah,
Jesse, I'll have to make sure I call you before I do that for tech support.
I'll show you how to do it, dude. I'll show you how to do it. Yeah.
Hey, so for all the chat, what I'll do, since Jesse asked, we got a ton of super chats we didn't get through. What I'll do is I'll launch a live right after this. you didn't, just like last time, if you didn't get your super chat read, because I got a little bit more time, you guys can jump in, read your super chats, and we'll go through them. How about
I'm
that?
so sorry, you guys. Listen, whenever I stream, I'm
telling
passing this
Jesse.
off.
We
It's
keep telling
impossible
Jesse to let
up.
me host because he
Yeah.
keeps fucking everything up every time.
It's
but
so
he
hard, dude.
He
There's
refuses
so
to
many.
do it. He's like, Nate, no, I'm not going to allow you to do it. And I'm like, okay, guy. he doesn't actually do that.
Yeah, our next Thursday, I was like, please do it, dude. Like, it's too hard. I don't like, yeah.
So yeah, everybody, if you want to just migrate over, and we'll talk about some things. Chris, if you want to come on too, we can drag you right in there. We can get your YouTube channel linked if you want.
Yeah. You know what, Nate? Give me about 2 minutes, and I'll. If you, I don't know how to get to your.
No, I'll just say it's the same way. I'll just send you a link. We'll restart a new one.
Sure.
Everybody that's in here, we'll just migrate over there. I'll have the stream up in like a minute, so we'll do that way.
That'd be
All right,
great.
guys.
Hey, and hey, Nate, for your audience, tell them to ask me some tough questions about the FBI.
All right, perfect. All right, guys.
Awesome.
So
All right, guys.
basically refresh my channel in like a minute, and then we'll be right back at it.
All right,
I'll watch
guys.
guys.
your comms,
See you
Nate.
later.
Yep.
Out here.